Global disaster. I have countless black technologies. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Surrounding Chaos, Monitoring and Alarming Facilities. Get out of the shelter and come to the ground. Li Hao found several bodies frozen by the wind and snow on the road not far away. It's been getting worse lately. Looking at the corpses, Li Hao shook his head. These days, there is more and more chaos in the surrounding area, and he naturally will not be unaware. It has been a long time coming. In his opinion, this chaos will definitely become more and more in the future. After all, the coming of the end times has led to a sharp decline in the productivity of human society. Over time, the goods left over in peacetime are also constantly depleted, and it is simply impossible to supply everyone for long-term survival. Without a self-sufficient refuge, people without supplies want to survive, and naturally they can only rob others of their survival materials. This is also the biggest source of the current chaos. When he went out in the past few days, he saw many people fighting nearby and grabbing supplies. Knowing the growing chaos in the surrounding area, Li Hao naturally not be indifferent. He came out now to add a precautionary measure to the shelter, which was used to monitor and prevent the chaos in the surrounding area from spreading to his shelter. However, you still need to choose which technology props to use as a preventive measure. Thinking like this, Li Hao opened the Doomsday Tech Mall attached to the system. Click the filter bar. Li Hao starts to filter the monitoring alarm technology props. Interstellar level monitoring alarm, quantum monitor, face recognition camera, HD tracking camera, all kinds of monitoring and alarm technology props appeared in front of his eyes. From interstellar level monitoring alarms that can monitor a river of stars, 100,000 light years, quantum monitors to face recognition cameras and high-definition tracking cameras that can only monitor within a radius of 1 kilometer, it can be said that there's almost everything. Very complete. Due to all the problems, Li Hao directly ignores those super monitoring props that can monitor the galaxy. Although these days, he has saved another 7,600 points. But which of these high-end devices is not a large string of zeros behind? It is not at all what he can afford now. Of course, even if he can afford it, he will not buy it. What a waste. He just wants to build a monitoring system to prevent the surrounding situation. Using these high-level goods that monitor the galaxy of 100,000 light-years at every turn, it is too underestimated to say that it is a cannon to fight mosquitoes. As this is Star Destroyer cannon to fight paramecium. After sifting again, Li Hao selected a monitoring prop priced at 500 points. Face recognition camera, Doomsday version function. Face recognition detection, monitoring alarm, introduction. This specially improved face recognition camera used in the end of the day can work normally in most harsh environments, and can accurately monitor and identify faces 1 kilometer ahead in the case of obstructed objects. Note: if the weather is bad, hail, heavy snow, and thick fog, the camera can monitor creatures within 10 meters. At most 1 kilometer of monitoring range is enough. However, according to the above introduction, if it is a super blizzard like before, under the cover of a large number of snowflakes, I am afraid that this camera can detect and monitor strangers within 10 meters. Li Hao thought to himself. However, this is also a common problem of low-level monitoring technology props. Unless he has a lot of points to buy those more advanced monitoring props, he can solve this problem. But he clearly does not have so much money. Of course, this is already pretty good. Replaced by the face recognition camera produced by Blwester, let alone monitor a 10-meter range under such a super blizzard, I am afraid that it will not work normally at all. At present, this Doomsday version of the face recognition camera is already the most in line with my needs and the most cost-effective. Thinking of this, Li Hao no longer hesitated and directly bought this Doomsday version of the face recognition camera. Points, 500. Take this Doomsday face recognition camera out of the system inventory. Li Hao found that the appearance of the Doomsday version of the face recognition camera produced by these system stores was very different from what he had seen on Blue Star before. It looks like a black water crystal. But it is not the touch of crystal. On the contrary, it seems to be a special alloy material. This unknown special alloy should be the protective layer to ensure the normal operation of the Doomsday version of the face recognition camera in various environments. However, no matter how powerful the protective layer is, there is a limit. I don't know if this protective layer can withstand the super low temperature and radiation of the outside world. Li Hao touched his chin thoughtfully. If he can't, his Doomsday version of the face recognition camera will be bought for nothing. It didn't work at all. With a mentality of experimentation, Li Hao directly threw a doomsday version of the face recognition camera into the eye. Since no outside. After waiting half an hour, Li Hao will bring in a doomsday version of the face recognition camera from the outside. 1 power. The camera still works. Examining the crystal-like alloy protective layer, Li Hao found no damage. Even he specifically detected the radiation inside it and found that the radiation inside the doomsday version of the face recognition camera was almost zero. Those strong radiations seem to be shielded by this crystal-like alloy protective layer. It seems that the harsh environment in the outside world is far from the limit of the doomsday version of the face recognition camera. Li Hao's eyes lit up. In that case, it would be no problem to use the doomsday face recognition camera as a surveillance alarm device for shelters. It will even be available for a long time in the future. Thinking of this, Li Hao immediately bought 3 doomsday version face recognition cameras in the system mall. According to the accompanying instructions, all 4 doomsday face recognition cameras were installed around the snowproof room built in the morning. The 4 cameras correspond to the 4 directions of east, west, south and north, with full coverage without the slightest loopholes and evidence. Confirming that all cameras are operating normally and connected to the console inside the shelter, Li Hao nodded in satisfaction, opened the door of the shelter, and prepared to rest in the shelter. Lately the weather on the ground is getting colder, especially at night. He doesn't want to spend more time outside unless necessary. In a warm shelter, snacking, playing games, isn't really fragrant. Chapter 52. Dragons crossing the river, hail like rain. Just as Li Hao is resting at the shelter. In a small 5-story building about 300 meters east of the shelter. Several men in large padded jackets are observing Li Hao's shelter with military binoculars. How's that shelter? A tough middle-aged man who looked to be in his 50s walked in with a group of people and asked. The tone is an air of not being angry and self-threatening. It should be nice. We have been staring at this shelter for 5 or 6 days, and no one in the shelter has come out to collect food and supplies, which means that the materials of this shelter are very sufficient, and there are most likely plantations that can be self-sufficient. 6 people who came out of this shelter this morning built a metal snowproof room at the gate of the shelter, which can spend precious metal resources on it, and this refuge may have a certain steel production capacity. According to the current observations, the infrastructure of this shelter should be quite complete, and it can be regarded as the best quality private shelter we have encountered. It's just that I don't know how many people are in this shelter, and the combat effectiveness is still unclear. The few people in large cotton jackets reported clearly what they had observed. After listening to his subordinate's report, the elite middle-aged man closed his eyes and pondered for a moment, and then spoke. A personal refuge should not have much force. For the sake of caution, the third man, you continue to take people to stay at this private shelter these days, and when the people inside go out, come over and report. When the time comes, we will launch an attack again. This private shelter, labor and management will be decided. In the end, the tone of the tough middle-aged man was full of murder. If they can't take a self-sufficient safe haven, they are rootless duckweeds who will die in this damn apocalypse at some point. Food shortages, natural and man-made disasters. In such a doomsday disaster, if there's a little accident, they will die without a place to be buried. The boss is wise. The people who go out in the shelter are all people with combat effectiveness, and when those people go out and leave, we can take the opportunity to deal with the shelter with reduced force, and it will be much easier. A thing monkey-like young man said with admiration. Don't give labor and management a hurry up and go to the officer, otherwise things will go wrong, and labor and management will only ask you. Understood. Saying that, the third man walked quickly towards the window with the small building. After making the arrangement, the tough middle-aged man turned to the leather-clothed young man behind him and asked, Tafai, you have studied in a military academy and fought in the Zintan region. Do you say that those explosives in our hands can blow open the big iron gate of the shelter? This leather-clothed young man named Da5 has a square face, but because there's a huge bullet hole in his left ear, his face is opposite and he looks very fierce, which makes people can't help but be afraid. Hearing this, Da5 pondered for a moment and replied, there should be no problem. Although these explosives are only handmade by me, they are definitely 10 times more powerful than normal explosives. As long as the amount is large enough, even the hard gate can be exploded. That's good. If you get a little more explosives these days, when the time comes, you will directly blow open the door of the shelter, and our chances of winning the shelter will be at least 30% higher. The tough middle-aged man nodded with satisfaction, his eyes full of fierceness. He wanted to make sure that his plan to seize the shelter was as safe as possible. Yes, but I need more raw materials. I nodded and agreed. That's it. If you have any raw materials you need, tell Laosu and a few of them directly. If it is not enough, let you take a few brothers out to find it, and you must make enough explosives to blow open the door of the shelter in these days. Hearing the order of this elite middle-aged man, the few people who were named also nodded one after another, and immediately began to act. The rest of the people began to go through the horses and maintain the guys in their hands. Submachine guns, military trolls, black start pistols, police body armor, explosion-proof shields, and bullet bags. Fully equipped, one separate person. Such luxurious equipment is almost comparable to armed enforcers in peacetime. Obviously, this is a raptor crossing the river. The strength of the force is not at all comparable to the temporary robbers around with cold weapons to fight and grab materials, not aware of the impending crisis. After Li Hao returned to the inside of the shelter, he only played the 3M masterpiece that had been downloaded on his computer, and then washed up and rested. With a doomsday version of the face recognition camera as a monitoring alarm system, plus 2 clone warriors taking turns to guard the door at night, there should be no major problems with the shelter gate. He can sleep peacefully. Following. When Li Hao got up, he found that it was even colder outside. The snow was accompanied by a dense hail rain. Fist-sized hailstones fell, smashed to the ground, and smashed into a small hole. If this power hits people's heads, I am afraid that they will die on the spot. However, Li Hao has no intention of going out recently. This bad weather did not affect him. Looking at the 4 facial recognition cameras arranged outside, Li Hao confirmed that its shell showed no signs of damage after the hail hit, and was also relieved. After completing his daily routine temperature check, Li Hao turned around and returned to the shelter. Go back to your room. Li Hao turned on the computer, wanted to see the recent doomsday information, and chat with other sand sculpture netizens. However, he found that the network signal seemed to be broken again. This signal is also garbage. Every time as long as the weather is bad, it will strike directly. Li Hao was also a little speechless. According to the previous year in nature, only when the weather improves and there is no interference, this weak network signal can slowly recover. What a hassle. If only I had a signal base station. Li Hao complained casually. However, next second his eyes suddenly lit up. That's right. If there is no signal, it is not enough to directly build a signal base station in the shelter and connect to the communication satellite. With a signal base station, I am afraid that there will be no net. He hadn't thought of this before, because it was limited by fixed thinking in peacetime. After all, in peacetime, signal-based stations are not something that ordinary people can get. Thinking of this, Li Hao immediately began to act. Chapter 53 Building a Signal-based station, Salt Synthesis Technology. Open the Doomsday Tech Store. Li Hao quickly found technology that could connect to wireless signals. Ignoring those high-end goods that can carry out interstellar signal communication, Li Hao directly focused on wireless communication devices below 3,000 points. After some screening and comparison, Li Hao finally selected a 2,500-point wireless communication device on the drawings. Small integrated signal-based station drawing land area. 53 square meters function. Wireless communication, signal amplification, introduction. This is a small integrated signal-based station, which has the advantages of less floor space and strong signal reception capacity. It looks good, but I still need to enhance the signal immunity. Otherwise, signal transmission and reception can easily be blocked by bad weather and strong radiation in the air. Thinking like this, Li Hao silently said in his heart, "System, can you optimize the drawings of the small integrated signal-based station to enhance the anti-interference ability of its signals?" System: Yes. You only need to pay an additional 600 points to complete. Okay. Buy it. Hearing this price, Li Hao said directly. The original drawing, plus the 600 points required for optimization, totals only 3,100 points. This price is completely within his affordability. Ding. After deducting 3,100 points, the small all-in-one signal-based station drawing, anti-jamming version, has been placed in the host's inventory. Taking the small all-in-one signal-based station drawing, anti-jamming version, out of the inventory, Li Hao went to the industrial workshop and entered it into the drawing library of the Super 3D printer bed. On the manufacturing display panel of the Super 3D printer bed, there is a small integrated signal-based station drawing, anti-interference version, in an instant. When you click on it, various branching parts appear underneath it. Put all the required materials in. Click Make All. In the next second, one part after another is continuously manufactured from the machine tool. After about 15 minutes, all the parts of the small integrated signal-based station drawing were printed and manufactured. Finding an empty room of about 60 square meters, Li Hao brought all these parts here. Then, calling Shazuki's 3 daughters, according to the instructions on the drawings, began the assembly work. It took about 5 hours for the four of them to get it right. Connect the power supply to the small all-in-one signal base station, and Li Hao presses the button. The small all-in-one signal base station automatically retrieves the wireless signal and starts to communicate. Then, a row of green LEDs lights up, indicating successful startup and signal retrieval is complete. Finally done. How about a look? Confirming that the small all-in-one signal base station is working properly, Li Hao walked towards the bedroom. Back to the bedroom. Li Hao turned on his computer, entered the password he had just set, and connected to the network of small integrated signal base stations. It worked. Looking at the signal displayed on the computer, Li Hao had a satisfied smile on his face. After checking it, he found that the network speed reached 1 Mbps. It is dozens of times faster than the previous tens of K. It's like changing from a sheepscout trail to a highway in an instant. Of course, it is certainly incomparable to the speed of hundreds of megabytes in peacetime. After all, the meteorite rain that fell on the giant meteorite may have destroyed most of the communication satellites. It's nice to have that speed now. At least the chat and watching the news are very smooth, without the slightest stuttering. Solving the problem that the network signal is often disconnected, Li Hao immediately logged into the official forum to view the latest doomsday information. However, there seems to be no major disaster recently. Except for extremely harsh doomsday weather in local areas, such as Shanghai City, Qingyang City, etc. There is no major event. The government's construction of the Highland Railway and the rescue of the people are still progressing steadily. After reading all the recent news information and confirming that there have really been no terrorist disasters that have swept the world recently, Li Hao closed the official forum. Instead, log into a doomsday dating chat room and chat in far with other sand sculpture netizens who have not seen for a long time. January 29, 2021. There has been a short-term recovery in the outside world, and the temperature dropped to -81 degrees, and the hail rain is getting heavier. Hail the size of a fist yesterday. Today it has become the size of a small basin. Smashed down from a height. The powerful impact can really smash people out of the meatloaf. It is like a bomb. When he went out to check the temperature in the morning, Li Hao found himself smashing the snow shelter built on the ground. If it weren't for the fact that he built the snow shelter from memory alloy steel produced in the shelter, the walls would have been nearly 20 millimeters thick. It's hard. He suspected that the snow room was going to be smashed straight through. Even so, the roof of the snow room still has dents one after another, and it has obviously suffered a lot of damage. Seeing this, Li Hao immediately pulled out a batch of memory alloy steel from the metal storage room of the shelter to strengthen the wall thickness of the snow room and strengthen its wall defense. By increasing the wall thickness of the snow room by 100 millimeters, the roof of the snow room is finally no longer dented. Obviously, the big hail could not cause any major damage to the snow room. January 30, 2021. The weather is still bad. I checked the shelter and found nothing wrong. Idle. Li Hao can only watch the movie tape with Shazushi to pass the time. January 31, 2021. The weather outside improved, and the hail rain that had fallen for 3 days and 3 nights finally stopped. Li Hao went out for a spin and found that the surroundings were even more chaotic. It seems that this hailstorm relationship has left many people who have not been able to store enough food and cannot go out and can only go hungry. Today, there are many people who are burning and looting supplies. If it weren't for the deterrence of 4 heavily armed clone warriors by his side, I am afraid that he would also be targeted by these people. February 1, 2021. A new January has begun. At noon of the day, the system that had been silent for a long time finally released a new task. Salt collection mission description. Salt is an indispensable substance for maintaining the normal operation of the human body. Ask the host to collect 1,000 pounds of edible salt. Mission reward. Salt synthesis technology. Note: synthetic salt is no different from normal table salt. This task must be completed. Looking at the reward of the system task, Li Hao showed a hint of surprise. Doctors are saying that it is better to eat without meat than without salt. Among them, the importance of table salt is already self-evident. Long-term failure to eat salt will lead to human neurasthenia, general weakness, and even death for a long time. Although there are still many shelters for salt, they do not have the ability to be self-sufficient, and sooner or later they will be eaten. You can imagine how important the mission reward for this task is. As long as this task can be completed, the shelter will have the ability to produce salt on its own in the future. Chapter 54. Potential murder, mutual calculation. However, in today's environment, it is difficult to collect edible salt. Even if you trade with people from other shelters, it is not difficult to get a small amount of salt, but the difficulty of getting 1,000 pounds of edible salt has skyrocketed. Seeing the requirements of this task, Li Hao also felt a little headache. As long as you are not a fool, you know the preciousness of table salt. In today's doomsday environment, there is a lot of radiation in the seawater needed for salt production, which needs to be heavily filtered before it can be used. This tedious process, coupled with the harsh environment of the apocalypse, obviously the output cannot be high. It can be said that salt is much more precious than grain today. If he wants to exchange thousands of pounds of edible salt from other people's hands, even if he uses a large amount of grain to exchange, I am afraid it will be difficult to get together in a short time. Take your time. Anyway, there are still many edible salt reserves in the shelter, and there will be no shortage in a short time. Thinking of this, Li Hao no longer tangled, turned on the computer, and directly posted the news of buying edible salt with grain on the trading forum. Not surprisingly, what he expected, many people asked him in private messages if he could trade food with other supplies. But no one traded edible salt. Too lazy to talk nonsense with these people, Li Hao directly added one more message to the post, only for edible salt. With this newly added information, there were suddenly many fewer people in the background who privately messaged him. After waiting for a long time, no one sent a private chat message about salt trading. Li Hao had no choice but to close the trading forum. It seems that this task will be difficult to complete in a period short of time. Confirming this again, Li Hao shook his head and said helplessly, February 2, 2021. Today, there is still no one on the trading forum to chat privately about trading salt. Nothing happened in a day. February 3, 2021, February 4, 2021, February 5, 2021 early morning. It has been 5 days since he posted his salt post. Today, someone in the background of the trading forum finally sent him a private message about salt trading. It is the owner of a private shelter. After some discussion between Li Hao and the other party, the two sides agreed to exchange 100 kilograms of grain for 10 kilograms of edible salt. After agreeing on the place and time at the transaction, Li Hao is ready to go. Get out of the bedroom. Li Hao called no one and a few clone warriors, took the 100 pounds of food needed for the trade, and walked into the underground garage. A minute later, a silver-white radiation-proof snowmobile drove out of the underground garage and sped towards the outskirts of the southern district of Shanghai City. Drive some distance. Boss, there were people around the neighborhood all the way just now to observe us, organized and disciplined. It should be a gang. No. One, who was driving in the driver's seat, suddenly spoke. How many people? In which direction? Hearing this, Li Hao also immediately asked. He also had a faint feeling of being spied on in his heart just now. He thought it was a survivor of the surrounding shelter, so he didn't care. But I didn't expect that these people were all an organization, and they were specifically observing them. This is clearly problematic. In the small building about 100 meters back on the left, there are two people, both with binoculars. Number one replied. Taking the binoculars out of the locker in the car, Li Hao looked in the direction no one had said. Sure enough, in an inconspicuous small building, two heads were faintly exposed. If it weren't for some reflections from the telescopes in the hands of these two people, he would probably have ignored it directly. What are these people secretly observing us for? Li Hao's brows furrowed slightly. These days, the surrounding area is getting more and more chaotic. These people secretly observed and watched him. Obviously, it is impossible to give him benefits. It's not a good comer. According to the investigation of no one, there were people observing along the way just now, and there must be many such observation points. Maybe the area near my shelter has been firmly monitored by these people. Thinking of this, Li Hao's face became more and more gloomy. A bed on your side will not allow others to sleep soundly. The actions of these people have completely angered him. However, there is still too little information about this gang, and I don't know how strong and equipped they are. Seeing that they are only observing at present, they should also want to find out my strength, and they should not make a move in the short term. Now, what I want to do is to stabilize these people, find out the details of this group of people in reverse, and it is not appropriate to fight the grass and startle the snake for the time being. Thinking of this, Li Hao also turned off his mind to let no one drive back to the shelter. It's business as usual. He believed that the shelter would not be a problem. Due to the bumper harvest, the shelter's food reserves are skyrocketed, and he recently produced a dozen more clones. In addition, his shelter itself has only one access channel, which is easy to defend and difficult to attack. As long as it is not bombarded by a dozen heavy artillery pieces, I am afraid that even one battalion of troops will not be able to fight down the other side. Two young men in thick cotton clothes watched Li Hao and the others drove away. After Li Hao and the others completely disappeared in front of their eyes, one of them immediately put down the binoculars in his hand, turned around and ran downstairs. As soon as the snow cloth was pulled, a modified snowmobile was revealed. Get in. Ignition start. The young man drove the snowmobile towards the north. After about 10 minutes of driving, he came to a small 5-story building. Run up to the 4th floor of the small building. About 20 strong men were eating. Beyond the lively living room, the young man came to a room and walked in. Seeing the young man come in, the tough middle-aged man said lightly, Pheasant, how is the situation? Brother, by now, someone drove away from the shelter this morning, using an unseen style of snowmobile. There were about 6 people sitting inside, all holding guns in their hands. It seemed to be rifles. This young man, nicknamed the Mountain Chicken, quickly said the information he had observed. Immediately, he said in an excited tone, "The strength of the shelter must have dropped a lot now, Brother Bilao, or let's drive now." After a moment of silence, Wei Bilao's eyes moved, but he finally opened his mouth and denied, "It's too early. Can't take any chances. Now that Defy's explosives are not fully configured, just breaking the door of the shelter is a bit problem. You continue to monitor. Don't start the snake stop. As long as the people in that shelter don't find us, our advantage will grow. What we have to do now is wait for the time to ripen and kill with one blow." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelas. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Stealth Suspended Drone. I don't know the calculations of the leader of that group of monitors. Of course, even if you knew, Li Hao would only applaud. After all, this coincided with his plan. Then it's up to who's got the best of it. Shanghai City, a suburb of the South District. At this moment, Li Hao completed the deal with the private shelter that contacted him, and set out on his way home with 10 kilograms of edible salt. The journey was also very smooth. Li Hao and several clone warriors soon returned to the shelter. Drive the car into the underground garage. Li Hao asked the clone warrior to put the 10 pounds of edible salt in the storage warehouse. Kari put it away, and walked all the way to the control console of the shelter. Come to the control console. Li Hao immediately turned on a surveillance system composed of face recognition cameras. Push the camera's monitoring range to the limit. Since today's weather is not bad, 4 facial recognition cameras can capture the situation within a radius of half a kilometer. Under such all-round surveillance, Li Hao soon discovered traces of those people. 3 lookout points. 1 left, 1 right, 1 back. 1 in a supermarket about 300 meters to the left in front of the shelter. 1 is on a small 3-story building about 250 meters to the right of the shelter. The last one is on a commercial building about 240 meters behind the shelter. According to the face recognition function of the 4 cameras, there are a total of 8 people on these 4 small buildings. It's really tight. Li Hao had a sneer on his face. These 3 extremely hidden surveillance points surrounded his shelter. If it weren't for the face recognition camera produced by his system, I am afraid that he would really not be able to find it all without alarming these people. Pulling up previous surveillance footage, Li Hao discovered that the men had been monitoring the shelter 5 days earlier. It's just that because they never approached the shelter within 200 meters of the shelter, the cordon was not triggered, and the face recognition camera did not sound the alarm. It seems that these people are very cautious. But now that you find their horses' feet, it's easy to do. Li Hao's face showed a fierce color. He wants to follow these people to find the real heir of this gang, take the initiative to attack, and kill them all. However, if you want to do this, you can't do anything to make this group of people alert and escape. With the caution and vigilance of this group, once they hit the grass and startle the snakes, they may immediately flee without a trace. And if you want to find the nest of this group of people silently, I am afraid that it will be difficult to send battle clones to complete this task with 100% certainty. After all, the battle clones are still in the human category, and in the process of finding these people's nests, it is very likely that they accidentally alarmed this group of people. It seems that if you want to complete this task 100%, I am afraid that you can only buy a tracking and reconnaissance technology prop in the system mall. Thinking of this, Li Hao immediately opened the Doomsday Technology Mall. After some searching, Li Hao found a satisfactory technology prop. Stealth suspension drone function. Optical stealth, anti-gravity flight, 360-degree automatic tracking. Introduction. This is a drone with optical stealth, relying on anti-gravity propulsion when flying. There will be no sound, and it can be completely invisible. This stealth hovering drone can be completely invisible and cannot be detected unless touched by hand. The nest used to find those who are watching is absolutely foolproof. Li Hao's eyes lit up. And this stealth suspension drone is not expensive. Only 3,200 points are required. In recent days, he has saved a lot of points. This point payout is a piece of cake for him. No hesitation. Li Hao bought it directly. Points, 3,200 in the next second, the stealth hovering drone appeared in his inventory. Take the stealth hovering drone out of your inventory. Li Hao found the shape of the stealth hovering drone very strange. There is absolutely nothing in common with a drone produced by Blue Wester, like a round black sphere. But yes, the application of anti-gravity technology naturally does not need to install propellers. The reason why it is made into a spherical shape is obviously for a wider monitoring angle, and the 360-degree automatic tracking should be based on this shape. After fiddling with it, Li Hao also had some understanding of this stealth hovering drone in his heart. Pick up the remote control. Li Hao clicked the anti-gravity button above. I saw that the black sphere on the ground suddenly flew out of thin air. There was no sound at all during the whole process. Next is invisibility. Li Hao pressed the invisible button next to anti-gravity, and the next second, the black sphere magically disappeared in Li Hao's sight. Touching the place where the black ball disappeared, Li Hao confirmed that the black ball did not disappear out of thin air. This stealth technology is really terrifying. As long as you don't touch it with your own hands, you can't see it even in front of you. Li Hao had a look of amazement on his face. Seeing the power of the stealth suspension drone, he suddenly had 100% confidence in his plan to silently find the lair of that group. With such a powerful black technology, those people can guard against it. Thinking of this, a smile also appeared on Li Hao's face. Get moving. As if he had gone out to take temperature routinely, Li Hao walked out of the shelter cave and silently released the stealth levitating drone that had been completely invisible. Later, after completing the temperature measurement and returning to the shelter, Li Hao watched the screen on the remote control while controlling the stealth hovering drone to fly towards the supermarket surveillance point about 300 meters in front of the left side of the shelter. Eventually stopped by the window with the supermarket. Under the close-up shooting of the stealth suspension drone camera, the picture inside the supermarket is very clear until Li Hao's eyes. There were 3 people inside, all in their 20s. It seems to be led by the young man who looks like a thing monkey. The 3 rotated to ensure that people were staring at the shelter at every moment. Waited for a while. Li Hao found that the 3 were eating and drinking lassa in this room. It seems that there's no intention of returning to the old nest at all. It seems that it is necessary to get some movement out and let these people go back and report. Chapter 56. Pursue the mod lair. Otherwise, I'm afraid these people won't leave at all, let alone return to their lair. After a moment of silence, Li Hao suddenly thought of a way. Calling No. 1. Li Hao spoke out his plan. He asked No. 1 to drive out with a few clone warriors, driving off the left side of the road in front of the shelter into the distance, and making a circle back. After receiving the order, No. 1 took a few clone warriors with him, and then set off. The radiation-proof snowmobile drove out of the underground garage again. Then turned left and speed away. Looking at the display panel of the stealth suspension drone, Li Hao found that the 3 people in the supermarket also made a move after watching the radiation-proof snowmobile leave. One of them quickly ran downstairs, apparently to go back and report the situation. Finally going back to the lair, Li Hao showed a smile on his face and controlled the stealth hovering drone to quietly follow. The man drove the car, but did not notice that there was a tail behind the leather drum. 10 minutes later, the man finally stopped in front of a humble 5-story building. It seems that this is their lair. Li Hao controlled the stealth hovering drone, followed the monitor pi drum, and entered the small building with dignity. The scenes inside instantly all appeared on the display in Li Hao's hand. Follow along the way. Come to the 4th floor of the small building. Li Hao found that there are quite a few people here. Carefully counting, there were more than 20 people, all of them adult strong men. Not only that, but these people are also wearing police bulletproofs. There are also explosion-proof shields, submachine guns, military trolls. The equipment looks very well equipped and complete. These people are so well equipped. It won't be a robbery of the official capture bureau, right? Li Hao's face was also a little surprised. No matter how they came about, these people were definitely the strongest of all the thug gangs he had met so far. This equipment is comparable to armed enforcers in peacetime. But fortunately, these people don't seem to have heavy weapons. There should be no problem in all the battle clones in the shelter to eat them all. Knowing the power of this gang of thugs, Li Hao did not have the slightest panic in his heart. This strength is still within his range. However, out of caution, Li Hao did not rush to end the probe. And follow the monitor to a small room on the 4th floor. Enter this room. The monitor was about to report intelligence to a tough middle-aged man. Brother, by now, someone drove out of the shelter just now. It seems that this tough middle-aged man is the boss of this gang. I wonder what this man wants to do to my shelter. Li Hao guessed in his heart, and the movements of his hand did not stop. Control the stealth hovering drone to fly upwards, making sure it will not be touched by the opening and closing doors, and then let it stop. I didn't know that an invisible eye was staring at him, and the young man and the tough middle-aged man were still talking. Recently, the people of that shelter have started going out frequently. Are they trading with other shelters? After listening to the report of his subordinates, Li Hao also had a guess in his heart. However, in his opinion, these are all minutiae. No matter why the people in that shelter go out so often. As long as the surveillance points laid out by his subordinates are not discovered. On the contrary, the people in the shelter often went out, which was a good thing for him. After all, in general, the person who goes out is a combatant in a shelter. These people are not in shelters, and it is much easier for them to attack. You go back and tell the third man, let him try to find out the rules of the people in that shelter going out recently. As long as all the explosives and fire are made, find a good man, blow open the door of the shelter, and take down the shelter completely. Li Hao spoke. Yes. Upon being instructed, the young man immediately turned and walked out, apparently to return to the surveillance point in the supermarket. And Li Hao naturally not continue to operate stealth suspension drones to keep up. His purpose is this oldest dynamite. Blow open the door of the shelter. Through the stealth suspension drone, listening to the conversation between the two just now, Li Hao's heart was also condensed. This stuff is no joke. The greater the amount, the more powerful it is. With the current gate of the shelter, I am afraid that it will not be able to withstand the explosion of a large number of explosives. If Li Hao hadn't detected this information in time, the door of the shelter would have been blown open by this group. Battle clones may also have a lot of casualties. After all, the new version of the radiation protection life support suit cannot block the powerful shockwave generated by the explosion of a large number of explosives. But now that you know the whole cards of this gang, then it will be easy to do next. Looking at the tough middle-aged man on the display, Li Hao showed a sneaker on his face. He already had a plan in his mind to completely annihilate this gang of thugs. Seeing that the room calmed down and could not get more information, Li Hao controlled the stealth hovering drone, flew out along the open door. What comes quietly, and what goes without a trace, like entering a no man's land. Flying along the roof, Li Hao searched the entire 4th floor with a stealth hovering drone, and found no room where explosives were made. The manufacture of explosives such a dangerous item. Even if you are sure, you need to be very careful. You will not put it in a crowded place, otherwise someone accidentally lights an open flame or interferes with the production staff. The explosive explodes, and all the people on this floor have to be cool. Come to think of it this way, the place where explosives are made should not be on the 4th floor. And the matter of making explosives is very important to this group, and it must be protected layer by layer. So the manufacturing place should obviously be the safest place in this small building. If thinking of something, Li Hao's eyes lit up. Isn't he the safest place in this small building, the 5th floor above the 4th floor or the roof above the 5th floor? To enter these two places, you must pass through the 4th floor and break through these heavily armed thugs. It is not the safest place. With an inference in mind, Li Hao immediately controlled the stealth hovering drone, flew along the stairs, directly upstairs. After some exploration, nothing was found on the 5th floor. Subsequently, Li Hao controlled the stealth suspension drone and went directly to the rooftop. Found it. It should be here. Looking at the small room on the rooftop where people came in and out, Li Hao directly let the stealth hovering drone fly in quietly. Sure enough, there are a lot of chemical equipment in this room. A leather-clad young man with a bullet hole in his left ear is following certain steps, either extracting or fusing the materials inside the glass tubes. The result is a cone of liquid-like things. Chapter 57 Phobia of Insufficient Firepower. Liquid bombs. Someone in this gang knows how to make liquid bombs. Is the quality of the thugs so high these years? Looking at the extremely skillful movements of this leather-clothed young man, Li Hao couldn't help but complain in his heart. Don't he look at the internet that the process of making liquid bombs is not difficult. But that's for professionals. For ordinary people, you can't get it to death. And the power of liquid explosives also has considerable advantages over ordinary powder bombs. If nothing else, under the same circumstances, in general, the power of liquid explosives is several times, or even more than 10 times, the net of gunpowder bombs. After some observation, Li Hao found that the clad young man had finished making about a dozen cans of liquid bombs. If these liquid bombs are all mixed together and detonated, they're enough to completely blow up the top floor of this small building. These liquid bombs seem to be available. Li Hao's eyes flashed. If you can detonate these liquid explosives on the rooftop, you can not only destroy the whole cards of this gang, but maybe you can directly bury the heavily armed thugs on the 4th floor. With a plan in mind, Li Hao pilots a stealth hovering drone to ascend and look for higher buildings nearby. Finally, more than 800 meters away in front of the right, an 8-story apartment was found. Compared to the 5-story building, the 8-story apartment is at least nearly 10 meters higher. Choose the right attack position. Subsequently, Li Hao opened the system store and began to find the weapons he needed for his plan. After some screening, Li Hao finally chose a single soldier bazooka. Long-range individual bazooka drawing functional design. Long-range aiming device, simple loading device, recoil buffer device. Introduction. This portable individual rocket launcher designed for long-range strike purposes is easy to load, has low recoil, and can hit targets within 100% of a kilometer using its own long-range aiming device. A kilometer is 1,000. According to the above introduction, using this single-soldier bazooka to bombard this rooftop hut from the highest point of the 8-story building 800 meters away is simply simple, with a 100% hit rate. Li Hao nodded in satisfaction. This weapon can really hit the head from a kilometer away. Such a hit rate and accuracy just make up for the most critical part of his plan. Without saying, Li Hao directly bought it for 1,000 points. As for the special rockets needed for this long-range individual bazooka, after thinking for a moment, Li Hao decided to buy the finished product directly. Because of the gunpowder in the shelter, to be precise, the raw material for making gunpowder, sulfur, is almost gone. The remaining amount of gunpowder simply does not make many special rockets. Spending 1,000 points, Li Hao buys 20 special rockets for long-range individual bazookas. After doing all this, Li Hao walked out of the control console and towards the industrial workshop. Coming to the Super 3D printer bed, Li Hao entered the drawings of long-distance individual bazookas into the drawing library. On the display panel of the Super 3D printer bed, a new manufacturing icon of a long-distance individual bazooka suddenly appeared. Let's build 10 first up against that gang of thugs. The firepower of 10 long-range individual bazookas is definitely enough, and there may be a lot of firepower. Put in raw materials, Li Hao sets the manufacturing quantity. He has saved a lot of points these days. There was money in the pocket, and the fear of insufficient firepower deep in the genes of the flower grower suddenly emerged. This time he was ready to blast his opponent with absolute firepower. The Super 3D printer bed started, and one robotic arm moved extremely flexibly and orderly, processing and printing various raw materials into finished products. Soon, long-range individual bazookas continued to come down from the machine tool. After about 10 minutes, all 10 long-range individual rocket launchers were manufactured. Then, it's time for the evening. I hope the thugs will like this big gift. Looking at these hideous barrels, Li Hao showed a nuclear smile on his face. As night falls, the sky and the earth are dark. Li Hao took 20 heavily armed clone warriors through another entrance, bypassing the surveillance range of the 3 surveillance points, and quietly left the shelter. After seeing the strict surveillance arrangement of the opponent this time, Li Hao decided to learn rabbits, cunning rabbit 3 caves, and get a few more hidden entrances and exits for backup. The new entrance and exit was made by Li Hao at noon with a small automated excavator and leads directly to the sewer exit 400 meters behind the shelter. Quietly leaving the shelter, Li Hao takes 20 clone warriors to the sewers. Since Shanghai City is almost scrapped and no longer produces all kinds of garbage, this sewer has undergone so many days of ice since no baptism, but there's not much smell, and the water is even clear enough to see the bottom. Exiting from the sewers, Li Hao and the others divided into 3 ways and quietly touched the 3 surveillance points. With 9 clone warriors, including No. 1, Li Hao moved towards the commercial building surveillance point about 240 meters behind the shelter. A few minutes later, Li Hao arrived at the commercial building. Opening the tablet linked to the shelter control console, Li Hao brought up the footage of the face camera recognition surveillance system. In the picture, on the 8th floor of the commercial building, only one person is still holding a telescope, continuing to monitor the direction of the shelter. The other 2 were not showing their heads, and were supposed to rest in their rooms, waiting for surveillance in the middle of the night after their shifts. After determining the general situation of this surveillance point, Li Hao immediately took 9 clone warriors into the staircase passage and touched it towards the 8th floor. It is not known if these monitors have any means of long-distance communication in their hands. In order to prevent accidents, causing the thugs to receive the news and escape, Li Hao and others barely made much noise during the march. From the 1st floor to the 8th floor, I walked for a full 10 minutes. Walking out of the stairs on the 8th floor, Li Hao and the others immediately walked towards the room where the monitor was. Chapter 50 Artist Explosion, Poidaxing Commercial Building, a room on the 8th floor facing south. Asha, Lao Ba, did you hear any strange sounds? A young man in a down jacket suddenly opened his eyes and asked his companions beside him. A look of surprise flashed on his face. You're too sensitive. There were just 3 of us in this building, and if there was any sound, it should be just the sound of the wind blowing something. The man known as Li Hao said without care. Hurry up and rest. Later, it will be your turn to monitor for Lao Ba. Yes. Labor and management are almost tired to death, and you won't have enough rest later. Don't think that I will help you continue to monitor on duty. Old 8, who was holding the binoculars, said a little impatiently. But, the young man in the down jacket didn't seem to be still a little suspicious. However, the words are not finished. The faces of the 3 showed horror at the same time. The door to the room suddenly opened. Without waiting for them to react, several heavily armed strangers rushed in. In the next second, a military dagger accurately pierced the throats of the three of them. Blood gushed out. The three subconsciously covered their throats, wanting to stop the blood rushing in their throats and say something. But he couldn't speak at all. After a few seconds, the three struggled silently for a while, and could only close their eyes extremely unwillingly. After solving these three people, 9 clone warriors searched the room. After confirming that there were no fish that had slipped through the net, he walked out. On the 8th floor corridor, Li Hao looked at the clone warrior who had returned again and spoke. Is it all solved? All solved. 3 people have already been killed. Number 1 replied. Search this floor carefully to make sure that no one escapes. In order to prevent other monitors here who did not miss their heads, Li Hao ordered. Yes. On command, no. 1 dispersed with the other clones. Soon, this floor was searched by them. Nothing was found. Apparently there are really only those 3 people here. Completing the predetermined objective, Li Hao leads all the clone warriors and directly advances towards the Thug's lair. According to his plan, the other 2 teams of clone warriors will also go directly to the Thug's lair after cutting the 2 surveillance points. Walked about 3 kilometers. Li Hao came to the vicinity of the 5-story building where the Thug's lair was located. Piloting the stealth hovering drone to patrol the 5-story building, Li Hao found that the position of the men had not changed much. Most of the people are still concentrated on the 4th floor. Only a small number of people guard the 1st floor to prevent others from entering the small building. As for the liquid bombs, they are still stored on the rooftop. It seems that the eradication plan formulated before does not need to be revised. Confirming that there were no mistakes, Li Hao waited for the other 2 clone squads in a bungalow not far from the 5-story building of the 9 clones. A few minutes later, 2 other squads of clone warriors also arrived. After everyone had arrived, Li Hao asked a clone warrior to carry a long-range individual bazooka and 3 special rockets to the roof of an 8-story apartment that had been chosen during the day to attack the most suitable location for detonating liquid explosives. It is only about 800 meters away from the 5-story building of the Thug's lair, without any obstacles in between, and it is condescending. It is very suitable for the play of long-distance individual bazookas. Prepare for an attack, and once the liquid explosives on the roof of the 5-story small building are exploded, all the individual bazookas will be aimed at the 4th floor and the 1st floor to bomb, and all the rockets will be fired. The others stood around the 5-story building and didn't let anyone escape. Watching the clone warrior walk off into the distance, Li Hao turned and spoke. The other clone warriors nodded. A clone warrior carrying a long-range single-soldier bazooka quickly takes down the single-soldier bazooka behind him and assembles it. The other 11 clone warriors quickly dispersed, in groups of 2, and went to the vicinity of the 5-story building to surround it. About 3 minutes later. Beep. A rapid cannon sounded, and the special rocket with swaying flames hit the hut on the roof with precision. Next second. Rumble. 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 An explosion sets off a chain reaction. Extremely violent explosions sounded one after another. For a while, the fire burst into the sky. The roof of the 5-story building, as well as the 5th and 4th floors, were affected by the violent explosion. Under this extremely violent explosion shock wave, the entire 5-story building was shaking. Fire. Seeing this, Li Hao ordered. Bang. 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 In an instant, 10 specially made rockets blasted towards the 1st and 4th floors of the 5-story building. It was as if the ground was washed by artillery fire. Rumble. 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 All specially made rockets explode after hitting the target. The flames burst apart, forming huge shockwaves. Yes. 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 In the blink of an eye, a series of screams and wails sounded in the 5-story building. The thugs on the 1st floor, who were lucky not to be killed by the explosion, only hated that their father and mother gave birth to 2 legs, and they ran out in panic. However, as soon as he stepped out of Jalo, he was mercilessly shot by the clone warriors who surrounded Jalo. Heavy rocket bombardment continued. 20 specially made rockets were quickly fired. Subsequently, Li Hao spent another 1,500 points to buy 30 special rockets. Next, the explosions did not stop for a moment. The continuous blast wave even formed a mushroom cloud, flying out all floors above the 4th floor. The roaring fire spread almost throughout the fragmented 5-story building, and also reflected the dark and deep sky overhead. Looking at the incomparably spectacular explosion seen in front of him, Li Hao inexplicably remembered the line of the classic name character, Art is Explosion, Poindexing. Chapter 59: The Disadvantage of Firebombing. A minute later. The 30 special rockets that Li Hao purchased later were also all fired. The explosions stopped. However, the flames caused by the explosion were still burning in the 5-story building. No, it was a 4-story building, without the slightest intention of extinguishing it. Another half hour passed. The sky-rushing fire gradually extinguished. In the end, everything returned to calm. Go. Go clean up the battlefield and collect the loot. Looking at the small building not far away that was almost blown up into the sky, Li Hao had a relaxed smile on his face. He didn't believe anyone could survive such ferocious fire. Take the clone warrior into this charred building. Clone warriors spontaneously disperse, searching for possible surviving thugs in the building to replenish knives and collect loot. Li Hao, on the other hand, took several clone warriors one and walked straight towards the 4th floor. Come to the 4th floor. The 20 or so thugs inside had all turned into charred corpses. After all, it was an explosion caused by 50 special rockets and a large number of liquid bombs detonated. Unless these thugs are all super liquid robots like the Terminator, it is impossible to survive. Even if you are lucky enough not to be killed, you will be completely burned by the flames that cover the entire small building. The scorched corpses in the entire 4th floor living room looked extremely tragic. After making sure that there was no living person in the living room, Li Hao walked straight towards the room where the tough middle-aged man was. The tough middle-aged man was the leader of this gang of thugs. Its rooms are centrally located on the 4th floor. Although it was also affected by the explosion, it was obviously cushioned by reinforced concrete on the outside of the building, and the power was much less. Moreover, as the leader of the mob, his room must not have been specially reinforced. In order to prevent it from dying, Li Hao decided to go inside and take a look. If he is not dead, he will give him a ride with his own hands. Walking into the room with no one in the others, Li Hao found that the situation inside was not much better than outside the living room. The walls with alloy iron plates were fragmented and covered with scorched black marks. The tough middle-aged man was even more miserable, and his body was directly exploded, blowing it apart. Not even a single corpse remained, only the head and a few arms were still intact. The dead can't die anymore. It seems that I still somewhat underestimate the power of 50 special rockets. Even the walls that have been modified by explosion-proof cannot withstand it. Seeing this, Li Hao couldn't help but smack his tongue a little in his heart. After making sure that all the thugs have been wiped out, Li Hao and the clone warriors raid the entire building. In the end, only 100 pounds of food and nearly 100 kilograms of salt were scavenged. Of course, these thugs naturally can't have only so many families. The reason why only such a few materials were found was because the previous crazy fire bombardment affected the material storage room, and most of the materials were destroyed. Even if it weren't for the fact that the thugs were quite attentive to their material storage room and made it very strong, I am afraid that Li Hao would not even be able to search for these 100 cattas of food and nearly 100 cattas of salt. It seems that if it is not necessary in the future, it is better not to be so reckless! Although the firebombing is very refreshing, the cost of points is a bit large, and the looted after the war is also lost to my grandmother's family. If he had not used fire bombardment, he would have been able to harvest at least nearly 2,000 cattas of grain and more than 300 cattas of salt in this battle, as well as capture the weapons and equipment on those thugs. Among them, food and weapons and equipment, he did not care. There were many shelters, and if they were gone, they were gone. But table salt is related to his system tasks, and the loss of him is naturally a little heartache. The day when a system task is completed is much delayed. Of course, there are pros and cons to everything. If it were not for the use of firebombing, this annihilation battle would not have gone so smoothly, and the battle would have ended in 1 minute. Those thugs are well equipped and comprehensive, and their combat effectiveness is absolutely amazing, and they can't let those people run away from a few of them, leaving behind trouble. It was with this consideration that Li Hao had previously adopted the tactic of firebombing and won a quick victory. Li Hao is now complaining, but only because his loot has been blown up by himself, and he is a little unhappy in his heart. However, no matter how small a mosquito is, it is meat. For the 100 pounds of food and nearly 100 pounds of salt, Li Hao naturally smiled unceremoniously. Since the purpose of this operation has been successfully completed, it is almost time to go back. After clearing the battlefield, Li Hao did not delay much longer, and took all the clone warriors and loot he had looted, and set out on the road to the shelter. Perhaps because of the violent explosion, the bandits who often appear at night in the surrounding area also seem to know what is happening around them and dare not go out. On the way back, Li Hao did not see half a figure. It went very smoothly. But even so, because the thug's lair was quite far away from the shelter, by the time Li Hao and the others returned to the shelter, it was already 4 o'clock in the morning. Back to the shelter. Have the clone warriors dropped the loot in the food compartment. Li Hao walked into the living room, but unexpectedly found that Zhaozuqi's 3 daughters were not sleeping, and seemed to be waiting for him. Seeing Li Hao come back, Zhaozuqi ran over as soon as possible, looking nervous and worried, and asked, "Brother Hao, you're not injured, are you?" "No, don't worry. The operation was very easy and ended in a minute. It's just that there was a little delay on the road, and I came back a little late." Touching Zhaozuqi's head and feeling her concern, Li Hao smiled and comforted. That's good. Hearing this, Zhao Zushi immediately breathed a sigh of relief, and a bright smile appeared on her face. Seeing that Li Hao didn't look injured at all, Zhao Zuki and Zhao Zuhua, who were not far away, also completely let go of their worries. They chatted with Zhao Zushi for a while. It's not early. Go back to your bedroom. Li Hao, who was sleepy in his heart, said hello to the three daughters and went back to his bedroom to sleep. Li Hao slept directly until 4 o'clock in the afternoon before waking up. When he got up from the warm bed, Li Hao found that his stomach was growling with hunger. It seems that this sleep is a bit long. Standing up and stretching his somewhat stiff hands and feet, Li Hao silently said in his heart, "System, open the task log." Chapter 60 Upgrading the Gate of the Shelter. The voice fell. A translucent virtual screen instantly appeared in front of his eyes. Doomsday Survival, Long-Term Mission. Today's mission reward settlement completed. Survival Performance. You complete the daily maintenance of the underground shelter with plus 50 points after being alerted by Clone Warrior No. 1. You find a group of people spying on you, with plus 50 points odds you return to the shelter. Use the surveillance facilities you have previously arranged to find out the surrounding monitoring points, and the points are plus 300. You control the stealthy hovering drone and use the peepers in the surveillance point to find the thug's lair with plus 1000 points. Find the thug's lair. You control the stealth suspension drone. After some reconnaissance, you find that this gang of thugs is quite powerful, and plan to use liquid bombs to seize your shelter. You are very angry. Decide to take the initiative to eliminate all this group of thugs. In order to eliminate the consequences, points plus 1000. You take the Clone Warrior and successfully destroy the 3 surveillance points of the surveillance vault with plus 500 points. To successfully use rockets to detonate the liquid bombs of the thugs, causing massive casualties with plus 500 points. Use 10 bazookas to bombard the thug's lair, and before this powerful mod can react, 817 is bomb detected by you, with plus 4000 points. Eat 3 meals a day, steadily consume energy, and maintain a balanced body nutrition. Plus 20 points to go into a deep sleep, refreshed, and the physical energy consumed yesterday is fully restored. Plus 30 points. Congratulations to the host for earning 8600 points. 8600 points. Li Hao's face couldn't help but show a hint of surprise. This point definitely broke the record for the highest settlement of points on the day since the end of his day. Taking a general look at the survival performance, Li Hao found that most of the points came from the gang. He successfully eliminated that gang of thugs, brought him 4000 points, and instantly returned the money for buying long-distance individual rocket launchers and special rockets, and also made a profit. This should be related to the strength of that gang of thugs. I have not eliminated the gang of thugs before, but none of the thugs are valuable. At the same time, at surprise, this thought flashed in Li Hao's heart. But whether it is or not, this point settlement has made his hands more abundant again. The points available in his hands skyrocketed, and Li Hao also had some other thoughts in mind. Maybe it's time to upgrade the doors of the shelter as well. After yesterday's easy annihilation battle, Li Hao exploded while feeling less secure in his heart. Because he found that the door of his shelter might not perform much better under such saturation fire than those mod-reinforced and modified walls. Maybe it will also be blown apart in an instant, turning the interior of the shelter into a sea of fire. Although such saturation firebombing is not affordable for everyone, it is clearly possible. With a sense of crisis in his heart, Li Hao naturally paid more attention to the upgrade of the difficult door. However, he did not rush to start the upgrade work of the shelter gate. After all, no matter what, it is not bad for such a while. I haven't eaten until now. After brushing his teeth and washing his face, Li Hao left the bedroom and walked towards the living room. He was looking for something to eat. Walked to the living room. Li Hao found Zhao Zuhua sitting on the sofa watching a TV series, with a videotape. Hearing Li Hao's footsteps, Zhao Zuhua turned his head and said, "Brother Hao, you're awake. The meal is ready, I'll bring it to you." Saying that, Zhao Zuhua quickly got up and walked towards the kitchen. When Li Hao sat down at the table, Zhao Zuhua also brought all the food out of the kitchen. 4 dishes, BFDG, and 1 soup. Smelling the strong aroma of the meal, Li Hao immediately couldn't wait to eat. Zhao Zuhua's cooking skills are the best among the 3 sisters, and the taste of the dishes cooked is no worse than those cooked by those hotel chefs. In addition, he is now hungry to death, and eating is called a gobbling. Snow painting, the dishes you need are really getting better and better. Li Hao praised while eating a delicious meal. Hearing this, Zhao Zuhua's eyes showed a hint of joy and pride, and said, "Uncle, if you like it. Just because of your cooking skills, the person who marries you will definitely enjoy it." Dealing with a meal in front of him, Li Hao said with a smile. Hearing this, Zhao Zuhua was also stunned, and I didn't know what to think, and her delicate white and tender face suddenly turned red. With that beautiful and lovely face, it really makes people feel beautiful. However, Li Hao, who was concentrating on the meal, failed to notice this beautiful scenery. After filling his stomach thoroughly, Li Hao took a glass of warm water and sat leisurely on the sofa to rest. Zhao cleaned up the bowls and chopsticks on the dining table with her hands and feet. The whole picture is harmonious and beautiful, giving people a warm feeling. It's like everyday life between a couple. Half an hour later. It feels almost rested. Li Hao got up and walked towards the shelter gate. He was going to take a good look at the upgrade plan for the shelter gate. This is at stake in the safety of the shelter. You can't be sloppy. Come to the gate of the shelter. Li Hao touched the alloy door, constantly thinking about various renovation options. If you want to transform the shelter gate so that it can withstand heavy fire bombardment, there are only 2 points, one is from the structure, and the other is from the material. Now that the double cushion in design of the shelter gate is quite good, then we can only start with a material. I need stronger, tougher alloys to make shelter gates. Clearing his thoughts, Li Hao immediately walked towards the industrial workshop. Come to the automated metal furnace. Li Hao opened the Doomsday Technology Mall and began to screen the alloy material formula he needed. Lightspeed Starship Special Alloy Steel Formula, Sun Alloy Formula, Neutron Alloy Formula, Energy Absorbing Alloy Formulation, Superfiber Alloy Formulation, Liquid Alloy Formulation. Among the various alloy formulas, Li Hao finally selected the most applicable alloy formula after some comparison. Chapter 61 Energy Absorbing Alloy Formula. Energy Absorbing Alloy Formula. Synthetic materials: titanium, copper, carbon, iron, zinc. Strength 59, toughness 70. Metal properties. Energy absorption. Introduction. This is a special energy absorbing alloy formula. The strength, toughness, weight are more than dozens of times that of ordinary steel alloy, and has an energy absorption function, can absorb a large amount of energy, used to strengthen its own defense. Note 1. The alloy can absorb most of the energy, as long as it does not exceed the limit. The more energy absorbed, the stronger the defense of the energy-absorbing alloy. Note 2. A 5-meter-long, half-meter, thick energy-absorbing alloy is enough to absorb all the energy generated by the explosion of a conventional tactical missile. This should be the most suitable alloy formula I can currently afford. Other alloy formulations are either too expensive, or the metal materials required for synthesis are too rare, and there is no shelter. Without hesitation, Li Hao directly bought this energy-absorbing alloy formula. Points, 8,000 in an instant. The 8,600 points that Li Hao just got today were almost gone. There's only 6,400 left in the points balance. It's all accumulated before. The points are still not used. Looking at the point balance on his panel that was beaten back to the original shape again, Li Hao also sighed a little in his heart. However, although expensive is a little more expensive, it is indeed worth the money. If the alloy formula has a grade, then the memory alloy steel, radiation protection alloy, and low temperature defense alloy he had before all the most elementary formulas, and the energy absorbing alloy formula is obviously a higher advanced formula. This can be known just from the comparison of the basic properties of these alloys. Memory alloy steel and radiation-proof alloy are most several times stronger than ordinary steel alloys, while energy-absorbing alloys are dozens of times stronger than ordinary steel alloys. You can imagine how big this gap is. And that's not counting its special energy-absorbing properties. According to the introduction, the more energy is absorbed, the stronger the defense of the energy-absorbing alloy can become until its absorption limit. It was the perfect material for a shelter gate. Enter energy-absorbing alloy recipes into the recipe library of automated metal melting. Li Hao then places the metal material required for synthesis into the material mouth of the automated metal furnace. By the way, this is going to be used to make the shelter gate, and the production mold has to be changed. As if remembering something, Li Hao called up the forming mold on the display of the automated metal furnace and entered the parameters of the shelter door. Then clicked the production button. In the next second, I saw a lava-like flame emerging from the automated metal furnace, melting the metal at the mouth of the material and fusing the forging hammer according to a certain proportion. It ends up being injected into a huge mold. About 5 minutes later, the first energy-absorbing alloy is produced from the furnace. Since Li Hao sets the size of the abrasive according to the proportions of the shelter gate, therefore, the volume of this energy-absorbing alloy can be described as quite huge. Coupled with its extremely high density, the weight is naturally quite amazing. Even if ordinary people try their best, they don't want to push it forward. Look closely. Li Hao found that the surface of the energy-absorbing alloy was extremely dark, as if it had absorbed the light shining on its surface. It feels very strange. Waited another 15 minutes. 4 brand new shelter gates were all unveiled. The shelter gate is a double gate structure, and the 2 large gates are 4 floors. Therefore, 4 energy-absorbing alloys were needed to completely replace the previous shelter gate. Looking at the four energy-absorbing allogates weighing nearly a dozen tons in front of him, Li Hao entered the mechanical equipment storage room and activated the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus. Construction facilities often require the handling of heavy loads, and the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus, as a construction robot, the Emperor is naturally also a big terror. As long as it does not exceed 30 tons, it can be easily handled. Receiving the order from Li Hao, the robotic arm of the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus instantly grabbed the energy-absorbing allogate and transported it to the gate of the shelter in batches. Let the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus tear down the old shelter gate and replace it with an energy-absorbing allogate. Looking at the extremely dark energy-absorbing allotor in front of him, Li Hao only felt that his sense of security exploded instantly. As soon as the gate is closed, it is composed of two energy-absorbing alloys weighing more than 10 tons. According to the description of the introduction of the energy-absorbing alloy, its defensive power should not be said to deal with the rocket bombardment he used yesterday against the thugs. I am afraid that even it will not have any problems in dealing with the intensive bombardment of large-caliber heavy artillery. Annie has two such composite gates. There should be no problem now. If such a defense could be broken by other thugs, then he really had nothing to say. After all, if there's really such a hanging, who the hell will be a thug? Ask for flowers. Brainwads, right? With the potential safety of the shelter settled, Li Hao returned to his bedroom with confidence. Open your computer and go to the account cabinet of the trading forum. Li Hao checked and found that no one was trading salt in private messages. After checking it out, Li Hao found that his post about trading salt had sunk because no one had spoken for a long time. Seeing this, Li Hao reposted a salt purchase sticker. It's really difficult to collect 1,000 pounds of salt in a short period of time. Closing the trading forum, Li Hao couldn't help but sigh. It's been a week since the salt collection task was released. Together with the salt captured from the gang, he was able to collect 152 kilograms of salt, completing 1/10 of the progress of the task. The collection speed is simply pathetically slow. It seems that if you want to complete the system task quickly, you can only go to other thugs to grab salt. Thinking of the salt seized from the thugs this time, G's eyes flashed. Trading forums are clearly not much on the count. Then there's only this way to quickly solve collection tasks. And it's also a best of both worlds approach. It not only eliminated the mob, reduced the chaos in the surrounding area, but also obtained a large amount of salt from the mob. Kill two birds with one stone. As for the risks involved in the operation to eliminate the mob, Li Hao didn't care. It is not that he is arrogant, he doesn't believe that the strength of those thugs around him can be compared to the group of bandits who had just been killed by him. In front of the heavily armed clone warriors, the surrounding thugs were obviously all food delivery. It's too late today, and tomorrow I'll go to the trouble of using those thugs in the surrounding area. Anyway, it's not in a hurry, so for a while. Looking at the time, Li Hao realized that it was already 8 p.m. After thinking for a moment, Li Hao, who had nothing to do, decided to go to the gym and exercise. After all, the body is the capital of the revolution. Work up a sweat for 2 hours in the gym. By 10 o'clock in the evening. Sweating profusely, Li Hao came out of the gym, went back to the bedroom, took a shower and slept 6 P.S. Update 2 chapters first, and the remaining outbreak chapters will be written for a long time tomorrow morning. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelas. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Salt Synthesizing Machine February 7, 2021 The outside temperature seems to be on the verge of stopping default. The rate of decline is getting slower. After breakfast, Li Hao took 10 heavily armed clone warriors and went out to find trouble with the thugs. With stealthy hovering drones flying in the air to scout, finding the location of the thugs is fairly straightforward. Once the mob is found, the clone warriors rush up, quickly resolve the battle, and exit the shelter where they are hiding in the middle of the mob. This method, Li Hao harvested nearly 200 kilograms of salt in one day today, as well as many other supplies. Coupled with the previous 100 pounds of salt, the collection progress of the salt collection task directly reached 243 pounds/1,000 pounds. February 8, 2021. Li Hao, who tasted the sweetness yesterday, naturally will not give up such a good use of the 5-4-3 method. Early this morning, he continued to lead people out to clear out the surrounding thugs, vowing to restore tranquility on the outskirts of the eastern district of Shanghai City. In order to improve efficiency, Li Hao also specially bought 2 more stealth suspension drones. Let the clone battle soldiers go 3 ways. At this moment, the efficiency of cleaning up is 3 times faster. At the end of the day, Li Hao harvested more than 500 kilograms of salt and other materials. The collection progress of the salt collection task suddenly skyrocketed, reaching 789 jin/1000 jin 202,129. After Li Hao's 2-day purge, those thugs sensed that something was wrong no matter how slow they were. Going out today, Li Hao used a stealth suspension drone to reconnoiter, and found that there were many fewer thugs around, and they all seemed to disappear all at once. Today, Li Hao only found 2 gangs of thugs. They are also poor ghosts among the thugs. There were very few supplies in the shelter. The materials of the 2 shelters added up, but only a few dozen kilograms of salt and 100 pounds of food. Li Hao right the good and returned defeated. But fortunately, there is a reward in the end. With these dozens of pounds of salt, the collection progress of the salt collection task has increased again, reaching 831 pounds/1,000 pounds, and only about 1/5 of the progress bar can be completed. 2021 Hail rained again. In such a harsh climate, going out is obviously impossible. Li Hao decided to take a day 0.2022121 francs. When after a day of hail rain, the rain finally stopped. Li Hao goes out again with a clone warrior. However, after looking for a long time, I didn't even see a person. The surrounding area is calm. In desperation, Li Hao had to take the clones farther to look for the traces of the thugs. At the end of the day, Li Hao only got 100 pounds of salt and food. There are still dozens of kilograms of table salt left before completing the salt collection task 202121820212113. February 14, 2021. For 2 days, the thugs seemed to know that someone was hunting them. Even if Li Hao went farther away, he could not find many traces of the thugs. Under such circumstances, it took him 3 days to finally find a few unlucky eggs with closed information, and captured from them the last dozens of pounds of table salt needed to complete the salt collection task. Finally completed this task. Lying on a sofa, Li Hao also sighed a little. It's not easy. In order to complete this systematic task, he has been out for the past week to clear out the mob. Although there was no danger in the process, it was not easy to find the thugs who were hiding like ground mice. If it weren't for the reconnaissance of the stealth hovering drone, he really wouldn't have been able to find those guys. After working on the road for so long, it was finally time to harvest. Open the system inventory. Sure enough, the reward for the salt collection mission has arrived. A thick copy of the technical information appears in the system inventory. Obviously, that is salt synthesis technology. According to the introduction displayed by the system, if you want to achieve salt synthesis, you need to use this technical data to manufacture a salt synthesis machine. Seeing this, Li Hao immediately got up from the sofa and strode towards the industrial workshop. Come to the Super 3D printer bed. Li Hao took this technical information out of the inventory and entered it into the drawing library of the printer bed. Seeing new manufacturing options appear on the printer bed's display, Li Hao clicked on manufacturing. Airplanes. Airplanes. Machine startup. Under the printing of a robotic arm with various tools, the extremely precise parts are quickly formed. About 10 minutes later, a machine with several large drums came off the tracks of the machine. Li Hao opened the device's properties panel. Salt synthesis machine output. 500 jin/day. Introduction. This salt synthesis machine can peel off a small amount of sodium chloride and other trace elements contained in fresh water to synthesize edible salt. Note: table salt is composed of 95% sodium chloride and 5% other trace elements, and the salt synthesized by the salt synthesis machine is no different from natural table salt. The yield is not bad. Seeing the output of the salt synthesis machine, Li Hao also showed a satisfied smile on his face. 500 jin is equivalent to 250 kilograms. A person only needs 5 grams of salt a day. There are only 26 clone warriors in the shelter now. In this way, the daily salt consumption of the shelter is about 130 grams. Even if you count those wasted in the cooking process, you can consume up to 200 grams a day. Theoretically, the salt production of the salt synthesis machine in 1 day is enough to eat 30.0 at present. It seems that there will be no shortage of salt in the future. The equipment was transported from the industrial workshop to an empty room next to the water source clean room. Li Hao then connected the water inlet of the device to the water reservoir in the water source purification room. Start the device. Zzz. The lights on the device all light up to indicate that the device is working. 10 minutes. White salt grains flow out of the salt outlet of the salt synthesis machine. Confirming that the salt synthesis machine was working properly, Li Hao put a large salt tank at his salt outlet to hold salt, and walked out of the salt production room. Finding yourself seemingly with nothing to do, Li Hao, who had been busy for a whole week, decided to take a day off. Calling the three sisters of Shazuki, the four of them happily fought the landlord together in the midst of laughter. The day passed like this. Chapter 63. The first batch of chickens and ducks to be slaughtered. February 15, 2021. The weather seems to be starting to improve. When Li Hao tested with a thermometer, he found that the outside temperature had risen significantly for the first time. It seems that the ice age has only recently arrived, and there are signs of dying. However, although this seems to be a good thing, I don't know why. Li Hao always has a bad hunch. Unable to find a specific reason, Li Hao could only put it in his heart for the time being and secretly raise his vigilance to 21216. Yesterday's warning did not seem to be an accident. Although the outside temperature is still very cold today, it is indeed warmed up a lot again. According to the current trend, perhaps in a few months Blue Star will officially come out of the ice age and return to normal. However, strangely, the radiation in the air does not seem to show signs of decreasing, but steadily rises in small amounts. Although it was confused in his heart, Li Hao, who was not a scientist, really couldn't find the reason for the rise in radiation. One can only guess which nuclear power plant or base with nuclear warheads blew it. For the sake of caution, Li Hao has upgraded the radiation protection life support suit to enhance its radiation protection function. February 15, 2021. After completing the daily temperature and radiation tests, Li Hao returned to the shelter and walked towards the chicken and duck farm next to the underground garage. If he had not miscalculated, the chickens and ducks in the farm should have been ready to be sold. Using fast-growing earthworm feeding, chickens and ducks grow quickly, can directly save 1/3 of the growth cycle, and it only takes more than a month to reach adulthood. It has been 2 days since the completion of the chicken and duck breeding plant. Today is the day when the first chickens and ducks are out of the slaughter. Open the doors of the chicken and duck farm. Walk in. The sound of chickens and ducks chirping instantly sounded in Li Hao's ears. Due to the good ventilation system and frequent cleaning and manure, there is no peculiar smell in the chicken and duck farm. Before coming to the chicken and duck breeding area, Li Hao looked at the fat adult chickens and ducks inside, and also showed a smile like Huanon. Fast-growing earthworms are really the perfect feed for chickens and ducks. These chickens and ducks each grow so well, it seems that they can be eaten. The chickens and ducks he traded were not fast-growing breeds. The chickens were hybrid Rillian chickens, and the ducks were domesticated rural native ducks. The growth cycle is more than 80 days. Especially crossbred Rillian chicken. His father's purebred Rillian chicken is a rare breed with high nutritional value, which takes half a year from shell to market. As a hybrid breed, the hybrid Rillian chicken is a much shorter growth cycle, but it also takes more than 90 days. These chickens and ducks are able to reach adulthood in more than 50 days, apparently all due to fast-growing earthworms. When chickens and ducks grow for a long time, the meat will start to become woody, and now is the time for these chickens and ducks to taste their best. First, kill 50 chickens and ducks and refrigerate them slowly, and the remaining 400 chickens and ducks will be used as breeders and ducks, so that they can continue to breed and expand the scale. For long-term sustainable development, Li Hao decided to kill only 1/5 of the chickens and ducks in this batch. After catching the chickens and ducks to be slaughtered, Li Hao asked the clone warriors to cut the throats and bleed the 100 chickens and ducks. When it was done, all 100 chickens and ducks lost their voice. Of course, these chickens and ducks have not been processed by the subsequent process and are not yet edible. Generally speaking, if you want to store them for a long time, these chickens and ducks also have to go through a series of processes such as hair removal, organ sorting, cleaning, vacuum encapsulation, etc. However, these troublesome technical tasks, clone warriors obviously cannot do well. Therefore, Li Hao intends to pick a machine from the mall that can do this kind of work. After some selection, Li Hao chose a machine called a small automated chicken and duck slaughtering line. This machine can automatically complete all the processes after the chicken and duck are slaughtered. The price is also not expensive, just 650 points. Buying drawings of the machine, Li Hao built it using a super 3D printer bed. With this small automated chicken and duck slaughtering line, the subsequent processing of chickens and ducks becomes extremely simple, and the slaughtered chickens and ducks are directly thrown on the conveyor belt of the assembly line. The small automated chicken and duck slaughtering line can process a chicken and duck in about 1 minute. 100 chickens and ducks, it only takes 100 minutes. He can process them all in an hour and 40 minutes. More than an hour later. 100 chickens and ducks encapsulated in vacuum packaging appeared in front of Li Hao. Put these vacuum-packed chicken and duck meat into. Li Hao took all the carts back to the shelter and wanted to put them in the cold room for refrigeration. However, wait until you return to your shelter. You killed too many chickens and ducks, and you can't fit them in the refrigerator. Looking at such a large amount of chicken and duck meat, Zhao Zuo also frowned slightly. She also didn't expect that after the end of the world, she would still be troubled by too much chicken and duck meat and a place to put it. Didn't there still be a lot of space in the cold room before? Li Hao was puzzled. Before, the chicken and duck breeding factory also produced a lot of eggs, many of which could not be eaten, all put in the refrigerator. The refrigerator is already full. Zhao Zuo replied. Like this. Rest assured, I'll solve this problem when ADB is complete. Now put these chicken and duck meat in the food pantry. Hearing this, Li Hao smiled, but there was no sadness. After all, he's a plug-in system person. It's a big deal to expand the refrigerator or build a new cold store, or everything will be solved. Got it. Zhao Zuo nodded. Although she was curious about how Li Hao was going to solve this problem, she didn't mean to ask more. The cardboard boxes containing chicken and duck meat were sent to the food pantry one by one. Looking at Zhao Zuo's busy back, Li Hao smiled heartily. Immediately, he turned around and walked towards the cold room. Opened the door of the cold room. Cold air spread out of the cold room. Inside, except for the aisles, all other areas are filled with all kinds of food that needs to be kept fresh and refrigerated. It looks like it really needs to be expanded. This cold room is only 50 square meters, and now it is obviously completely inadequate. Fortunately, the space for expansion was reserved before, and the refrigeration equipment in the cold room was also opened up at the time of expansion. Li Hao's eyes twinkled, thinking about the expansion of the cold room. Anyway, now there are enough points, simply in place at once. Chapter 64 Yue, Magician. Considering the expansion of the cold room, Li Hao immediately began to act. Temporarily clean all the food in the refrigerator into the living room. Turn off the power to the cold room. Subsequently, the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical construction octopus is activated. Li Hao entered all of his construction requirements into his architectural design cover. Clicked to deduce construction drawings. In less than 30 seconds, a plan to expand the cold room came out. After taking a look, Li Hao determined that the expansion plan met his requirements and was perfect. No ink. Li Hao bought a more efficient refrigeration plant from the system. Subsequently, the working mode of the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus is directly turned on. Since the cold room had been reserved for expansion, this time there was no need for a small automated excavator. It is enough to rely on the excavation and construction capabilities of the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus. Dismantling and replacing refrigeration facilities, expanding the area of cold rooms, under the hard work of the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus. The appearance of the cold room changed in an instant, and the area expanded by nearly 6 times. The wall structure has also been considerably optimized. The silver-white refrigeration pipes are densely packed on the wall, giving people a sense of tall technology. The area of 300 square meters of cold storage should be enough for a long time in the future. Looking at the spacious cold room in front of him, Li Hao nodded in satisfaction. Turn on the power and let the new replaced refrigeration unit start. Li Hao walks out of the cold room. Back to the living room. Snow painting. The refrigerator has been expanded. These foods that need to be kept fresh can be put back. Li Hao said to Zhao Zuo, who was still busy sorting out the refrigerated food. Good. Good. Hearing this, Zhao Zuo was also a little stunned. How long has it been? In 15 minutes, the refrigerator was expanded. In a trance, Zhao Zuo took the refrigerated food in her hand and walked towards the direction of the refrigerator. But as soon as she entered, she sent a cold room with the real change. And it's not a star and a half bigger, but it's directly 5 or 6 times bigger. Question mark. Zhao Zuo was stunned for a moment, her face full of question marks and disbelief. Can T go in the wrong place, right? Zhao Zuo, who was a little confused, hurriedly walked out and looked at the name of the winning bid, cold room. That's right. I walked around inside in disbelief. Confirming that the scene in front of him was not his hallucination, Zhao Zuo put down the refrigerated food in his hand, hurriedly ran to the living room to find Li Hao, and asked with a surprised face, "Brother Hao, how did you do it?" She really couldn't help this question. The efficiency of this expansion is beyond her common sense. It is clear that 15 minutes ago what was only a space of tens of square meters, how did it suddenly become several times larger, and those refrigeration equipment seemed to have become more advanced. Completely new. I can't find the slightest trace of the previous one. What how? Li Hao, who was watching a movie on videotape, couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this endless question. It's the expansion of the refrigerator. Zhao Zuo couldn't help but remind. Without waiting for Li Hao to answer, Zhao Zuo said to himself quite excitedly, "Brother Hao, are you a magician?" "No, magicians are just fantasy characters. They should be aliens with technology beyond human beings. Otherwise how can it be so fast? What a ghost the aliens." Hearing Zhao Zuo's increasingly outrageous speculation, Li Hao knocked Zhao Zuo's forehead with a smile. How did he not find out that Zhao Zuo's painting still had this kind of comic attribute before? "I'm not an alien, but I just expanded the refrigerator, and you expelled me from the Blue Star race." Li Hao complained angrily. Of course, in a sense, Zhao Lei painting really guessed part of it by mistake. His soul is indeed not native to Blue Star. It's just that he is not from an alien planet, but from Earth, a parallel world at Blue Star. And he does have technology far beyond Blue Star. But he obviously couldn't admit it directly. After that, Li Hao couldn't help but knock on Zhao Zuo's brain case again, wanting to use this to let her brain fall into the funny mode to calm down. But how is it possible to expand so quickly? Rubbing his knot forehead, the doubts on Zhao Zuo's face became even stronger. Hearing this, Li Hao naturally knew the confusion and doubts in Zhao Zuo's heart. Before the implantation of low-level gene chips, Zhao Zuo's three sisters could only enter and exit the living area, and naturally could not know the black technology hidden in the shelter. Although he had inadvertently shown a lot of before. Strange place, but because they do not know the specific process, they could also use common sense to explain 01 to their own brain supplementation. However, today such an unscientific thing suddenly appeared in front of Zhao Zuo. You can imagine how deep her doubts and confusion are. It's like the sudden appearance of mobile phones in front of the eyes of ancient people. Anyone will be confused. Of course, this is just an exaggeration. However, the technology contained in the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus is indeed decades ahead of the current world. There's no exaggeration in this regard. At least a few decades of scientific and technological generational differences naturally create a world of difference in construction efficiency. It also created the appearance of the incredible event in Zhao Zuo's eyes. After thinking for a moment, Li Hao decided to have a small showdown and let Zhao Zuo adapt to the black technology of the shelter under Li Hao. Anyway, there is nothing to hide about the automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus. The importance of his choice is not as good as the super 3D printer bed, biological gene editing table and other black technologies. Moreover, Zhao Zuo has been implanted with a low-level gene chip by him, and it is impossible to do anything harmful to his village. Kindness. He will not admit that the last one is the main thing. "You know when you come with me." Thinking so, Li Hao stood up with a mysterious smile on his face. He already couldn't wait to see Zhao Zuo's expression when he saw the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus. Unaware of the evil taste hidden in Li Hao's heart, Zhao Zuo followed Li Hao's footsteps with a feeling of apprehension and came to a stop in front of a mechanical warehouse that had never been to the future. The answer you want to know is here. Chapter 65. You still said you are not an alien. Open the door of the mechanical warehouse. A silver mechanical octopus suspended out of thin air appeared in front of Li Hao and Zhao Zuo. The first time he saw this suspended mechanical octopus full of technology, the expression on Zhao Zuo's face was completely stunned. Suddenly, he fell into deep self-doubt. Is she really in Blue Star now? Or is it that now the hidden level of technology at Blue Star is so developed? Brother Hao, you still say that you are not an alien. Coming back to his senses, Zhao Zuo's face was full of expressions that saw through everything. You said yes. Seeing this, Li Hao was also a little speechless. He didn't expect that Zhao Zuo was stunned for a long time, and then held out such a sentence. This mechanical octopus is just a little bit of advanced construction machine. The full name is Fully Automatic Multifunctional Mechanical Building Octopus, and I used it to expand the cold room. All right. I've seen it, and that's the end of the topic about whether I'm an alien or not. Kent figured out the brain circuit drawn by Zhao Zuo in the comic comparison mode. Li Hao 190 smiled helplessly and spoke. With that, he closed the door of the machinery warehouse. Walked the corridors of the shelter. I won't tell this secret. Zhao Zuo suddenly leaned into Li Hao's ear and whispered. In her eyes, Li Hao trusts her, which makes her aware of the existence of the black technology of fully automatic multifunctional mechanical construction octopus. She could not live up to that trust no matter what. As for where exactly the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical construction octopus came from. Enough is a smart person's choice. Since Li Hao didn't want to say it, she naturally wouldn't continue to ask. It's just that she doesn't know that the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus is not very important to Li Hao, and even has no meaning of secrecy at all. After all, in addition to the clone warriors who were loyal to Li Hao, there were only 3 people in the shelter, including Li Hao. The 3 of them were also implanted with low-level genetic chips, and it was impossible to do anything against him. Li Hao was naturally relieved. And now in the global apocalypse, their third sister, BFDG, sister can't leave the refuge at all, and can't see anyone else. How can they leak secrets? Therefore, in fact, Li Hao does not mean to keep the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus secret at all. However, since Zhazhua said so, he didn't bother to explain anything. Whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter if it is kept secret or not. As long as it doesn't spread outside the shelter, there is no problem. What he didn't notice, however, was a fork in the right corner. Zhazhua was secretly sticking out her head, watching the intimate action of him and Zhazhua painting close together, not knowing what she was thinking. Then, a determined look appeared on the delicate face. As if made up some kind of determination. In the blink of an eye, it was evening. Finish your late night snap. Work up a sweat in the gym. After finishing today's workout, Li Hao went back to the bedroom to take a shower and get ready for bed. Lying on a Simmons mattress. It didn't take long for a strong drowsiness to come to my heart. Just when Li Hao was about to fall asleep. After a slight knock on the door, a young girl sneakily walked into Li Hao's bedroom. Zushi, you came here so late, what's the matter? Seeing the face of the person who came, Li Hao's sleepy eyes were hazy and a little puzzled. Faced with Li Hao's question, Zhao Zushi did not mean to answer, and her delicate and beautiful little face was flushed. Then, as if she had made up her mind, she leaned directly towards Li Hao. February 18, 20,216 And Li Hao woke up very early today and felt refreshed. Then, Li Hao felt a fresh fragrance around him pouring into his nose. Turning his head, Li Hao found that Zhao Zushi was sleeping soundly. Sakura's lips pursed slightly, very quiet and cute. Seeing this, Jixi's gaze was also quite complicated. It's magical. I didn't expect Zhazushi to be so bold. When this happened, he was completely unprepared for it. It always feels a little unreal. Coming to his senses, Li Hao shook his head and shook off the pretentious thought. Warm thinking about that. Recently, the shelter has been very stable, and he has nothing to do when he is idle, and he is already a little anxious in his heart. After all, there are 3 beautiful girls in the shelter. He is not a restless illegitimate Megumi. Zhazushi's sudden move just completely pushed him. Made him evolve from a pseudo-man to a real man in advance. Putting these distracting thoughts to the back of his mind, Li Hao went into the bathroom to wash up. After washing up, Li Hao found that Zhazushi seemed to be awake. Seeing him, Zhazushi immediately hid in the bed. Also seems shy about yesterday's bold move. Seeing this, Li Hao smiled heartily, didn't say much, just walked over and held Zhazushi with a quilt in his arms. Feeling Li Hao's broad embrace, Zhazushi also showed a smile of attachment on her face. Half an hour passed. As if remembering something, Zhazushi got down from Li Hao, put on pajamas and sneakily touched her original bedroom. It looks like a kitten that is afraid of being caught. Seeing this scene, Li Hao couldn't help but laugh a little. Without a beautiful person, Li Hao had to go back to sleep. It was past 8:00 Breakfast was already prepared. Li Hao got up again. However, when eating breakfast, Li Hao could not feel that Zhazuki and Zhazua's gaze often stayed on himself and Zhazushi. As if we already knew about you. Li Hao, who was already prepared in his heart, naturally would not react. He didn't think that Zhazushi secretly came to his room to hide from the 2 sisters who shared the same bed. And Zhazushi also noticed these 2 eyes, blushed, ate vigorously, and did not speak. It can be said that the atmosphere of this breakfast is quite strange. Chapter 66 Physical Exercise, Making Low-Level Genetic Medicine. February 19, 2021 Today, the outside temperature has risen steadily and has risen back to -75 degrees. But the climate doesn't seem to be much better. It's still so impermanent and bad. Without warning. After 9 am there was another hail rain in the sky. In such bad weather, Li Hao naturally had no intention of going out. He and Zhazushi are in a hot relationship, and the 2 are now very tired. Where will be idle, run out and suffer from hail. Hiding in a safe and warm shelter to play, isn't he fragrant? 2021 There is still nothing major happening today. Despite the heavier hail rain, the shelter was still warm and peaceful. It seems that knowing that the two sisters already know their own affairs, Zhao Zushi also gradually let go. He no longer shies away from being in front of his two sisters and getting in close contact with Li Hao. Often sticking to Li Hao all day and inadvertently spilling a lot of dog food. Beep Shazuki and Shazu, but two single dogs are a little unbearable. Can't help but make a protest sound too. 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 8. Temperatures were still rising. But strangely, this hail rain that lasted for 3 days and 2 nights did not mean to stop at all. Instead, it is getting bigger and more ferocious. When Li Hao hid in the snow-proof room to test the outside temperature, he even saw a millstone-sized hail falling from the sky like a small meteorite, directly smashing a bungalow not far away into ruins. This unusually strange weather made Li Hao feel a little uneasy. But he was powerless to change the unusual weather. Only some measures can be taken to strengthen a wave of snow-proof rooms with energy-absorbing alloys to prevent them from being smashed by hail, and do several more layers of protection to keep things unchanged too. 2, 1, 2, 2, 2. www. February 23, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 4, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 5. Early morning 8 o'clock, Li Hao got up from the bed and felt a little pain in his lower back. It seems to have gone a bit too far lately. Even though he often exercises in the gym, his body is quite strong, but he is a little unbearable. The body still needs to exercise more. After moving his muscles and feeling the soreness in his back, Li Hao smiled bitterly. But he's all like that. Zhao Zushi is naturally even more miserable. Recently, he directly became a little lazy pig, did not sleep until 12 noon, and could not get out of bed at all. Thinking of this, Li Hao also smiled proudly. After washing, Li Hao walked out of the bedroom and went to the living room for breakfast. HMPH. Deserve it, it's empty. Zhao Zuhua, who was preparing breakfast, snorted and spoke. Seeing Li Hao's tired appearance, she naturally knew what was going on. But I don't know why, she felt a little sour in her heart, and her mood was inexplicably a little unhappy. Pay attention to moderation. And Zhao Zuki, who helped make breakfast on the side, also reminded with a serious heart. She also felt this way in her heart. But she was able to restrain herself well. Hearing this, Li Hao, who didn't know the two thoughts, also smiled. I only thought that Zhao Zushi had recently spilled a little too much dog food, which made the two single dogs feel extremely uncomfortable. After hurriedly eating breakfast, Li Hao, who was a little embarrassed, immediately hid in the gym. It's been a bit deserted lately. Starting today, he will continue to strengthen his physical exercise. Men cannot be false. Li Hao, who was angry and strong, sweated like rain in the fitness room until 12 noon, and came out to accompany Zhao Zushi for lunch. Afterwards, he entered the fitness room to stroke the iron dog. February 26, 2021, February 27, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 2. In the past 5 days, Li Ji will spend more than 6 hours in the fitness room every day. On this day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The workouts are getting worse and worse. After today's workout, Li Hao also frowned a little. He noticed that his body enhancement rate had obviously begun to slow down recently. Even with a systematic tailor-made scientific exercise program, the exercise effect is extremely insignificant. Obviously, the period of rapid growth in his physical strength has passed. All that remains is to slowly discover your body's potential. And this is clearly not something that happens overnight. It is difficult to see any big results in a short period of time. In other words, if there are no accidents, Li Hao can only maintain his current physical fitness for a long time in the future. But Li Hao isn't satisfied with that. System, bring up my points balance panel. After thinking about it, Li Hao suddenly thought of something and said silently in his heart. System, brought up. Host, Li Out, with black technology. Automated metal furnace, clone manufacturing cabin, super 3D printer bed point balance. 27,041 points. 27,041 points is enough. Seeing this rather huge number, Li Hao did not have much surprise. This is his accumulation during this period of time. It seems to be huge, but in fact, on average, the points obtained by daily settlement are not very many. It adds up to this number. Confirming that he has enough points, Li Hao walks towards the biology lab, the room where the creature black tech props are stored. Come to the biogen editing table. Li Hao opened the system mall and directly took down the bioengineering drawings of the low-grade gene agent that he had wanted to buy for a long time. Points, 21,900.00. In an instant, Li Hao's points balance dropped from 5 figures to 4 figures. The next second, the bioengineering drawing of manufacturing low-grade genetic potions also appeared in the system inventory. Take the bioengineering drawings out of them. Li Hao discovered that in addition to various biological genetic drawings and operating manuals, there was a glass tube of blue liquid labeled with the blood of evolution. Looking at the note on the glass tube, this thing should be the main raw material for the manufacture of low-grade genetic potions. I read all the manuals for making low-grade genetic agents. After knowing the specific operation process, Li Hao started the biological gene editing table. Open the proliferation vessel on the right side of the biological gene editing table and put all the evolutionary blood into that tube. Subsequently, various biological gene drawings were entered into the drawing library of the biological gene editing table. Click parse. A minute later, there was an agent-like selection mark on the display screen of the biogenetic table. Click and it is precisely the manufacturing option of low-grade genetic agents. Still, the manufacturing options are bleak and seem to be missing some key element. The last step left. Seeing this, Li Hao, who had read the manufacturing operation manual, did not have any surprise on his face, picked up the sterilized blood lens needle on the side and gently poked his finger. Take out 10 small tubes of blood. The removed blood is then placed in a genetic analyzer on the bioediting table. Carbon-based human genes were detected, and their internal gene sequences, selectivity were analyzed. Chapter 67 Mechanical Ascension, Human Optical Brain. Unlike manufacturing low-level gene chips, manufacturing low-level gene agents also requires testing a variety of factors such as gene strength and cell viability of the person taking the drug. After all, low-grade genetic agents act directly on the human body. There are considerable differences in gene intensity and selectivity between people. These differences also led to the fact that the amount of medicine that each person can afford is also different. Therefore, it is necessary to measure the gene strength and selectivity of the person taking the drug, calculate the optimal drug amount, and formulate the most suitable low-level gene agent. Otherwise, if you take it indiscriminately, in case the medicine is too strong and your luck is worse, maybe there will be a genetic collapse and you will die directly on the spot. Just when I was working on the biological gene editing desk. Li Hao, who was idle, opens the Doomsday Technology Mall and begins to see other black technologies that can strengthen the human body. The look of 050 immediately opened his eyes. High-energy organ evolution technology, nuclear dynamic cell modification drawing, liquid cell transplantation protocol, human light brain technology, human mechanization engineering, mechanical ascension program. Li Hao, who watched this black technology, was also excited. Almost every item is much stronger than low-level genetic potions. For example, the high-energy organ evolution technology is to manually intervene in human evolution through high-end biological genetic engineering to evolve a high-energy organ similar to an mass reaction energy furnace in the body. Once this high-energy organ is formed, continuously absorbs various energies in the air, forming an energy cycle in the body to promote the evolution of other parts of itself. Eventually, it can grow into a higher life form that crosses the starry sky of the universe. However, it is a pity that this awesome enhancement technology cannot be bought with his current wallet. Or most of the black technology, including high-energy organ evolution technology, he can only watch for a long time. There are only a few that he has been working on for a few months and is still likely to get. One of the most powerful is a human body mechanism project, also known as the enhanced transformation technology of the mechanical ascension program. Its strengthening method is to gradually replace various organs of the human body through machinery, so that human beings transition from carbon-based life to mechanical life. From then on, that the body is indestructible, the spirit becomes extremely rational, there will be no hunger, sadness and other emotions, and it will become a near peaceful immortal life. And according to the various powerful mechanical weapons loaded on the body, the upper limit of combat effectiveness is also high and terrifying. This enhanced technology is a complete series of technology trees. With the speed at which Li Hao now earns points, although he can't afford this high-end enhancement technology, it's still no problem to buy the front-end low-level human mechanical modification technology a month later. Through low-level human mechanical modification techniques, he was able to replace his organs and epidermis and become a half-human, half-mechanical being. At that time, he will not have critical weakness in his body other than his head. But is that still human? Thinking of the picture of his body full of gear and machinery, Li Hao couldn't help but shiver, and directly crossed out this enhancement technology from his selection list. Although this technological strengthening tree is strong, it is not his dish. And there are many weaknesses of this enhancement technology. For example, once it encounters a super powerful electromagnetic pulse weapon attack, the mechanical life form will instantly crawl into the nest, temporarily lose control of the body, and can only be slaughtered. After carefully comparing these black technologies and thinking about his own situation, Li Hao also had a choice in his heart. Needless to say, the low-grade genetic agents he currently uses. The price of follow-up technology is not cheap, and you can only wait until there's money in the future before continuing to buy. He is now mainly opting for a technology called a brain-assisted chip. This is the most advanced technology of human-like brain. The effect of this technology is to assist the brain and activate the brain's potential by implanting a harmless special biological protein chip in the human brain. To put it simply, it is to never forget, and the learning power is max. Knowledge other than cutting-edge technology can be quickly memorized and understood, including fighting skills, driving skills, etc. Can be learned and mastered thousands of times faster than ordinary people. This technology combined with genetic agents, one strengthens the brain and the other strengthens the body, which is a perfect match. However, the price of this brain-assisted chip technology is a bit expensive, requiring 31,200 points. With the current rate of point accumulation, I should probably have to wait another month to buy it. Seeing this expensive price, Li Hao put this brain-assistance chip technology on the purchase list next month with some regret. Right now, the biological gene editing station has also completed the detection of various factors such as Li Hao gene strength and selectivity, and calculated the most suitable medicine king for Li Hao through the formula configuration of low-cost gene drug manufacturing technology. I saw that on the display screen of the biological gene editing table. The originally dim manufacturing options of low-grade gene agents also lit up at this moment. No hesitation. Li Hao directly clicks manufacturing. The body is the capital of the revolution. The reason why he spent a lot of points to purchase low-level gene potion technology was not only to improve his unspeakable combat effectiveness, but also to deal with the increasingly severe survival challenges of the outside world. Strong physical fitness can ensure that he has a stronger ability to survive in various disasters. The recent strange and abnormal weather made him a little uneasy. About 10 minutes later, Li Hao took out a glass tube containing a dark blue liquid from the product outlet of the biological gene editing table. The dark blue liquid emits a dizzying shimmer and seems to have some kind of inexplicable peculiar attraction to living things. This is obviously the low-grade genetic agent after the production is completed. Knowing. According to the usage method indicated above, Li Hao poured that potion directly into his mouth. 5.9 is a bit sweet. Li Hao just tasted a hint of it. Then, he felt an astonishing drowsiness hit his mind. Reluctantly find a flat place in the biology lab to lie down. Li Hao couldn't help but fall asleep anymore. And just when Li Hao uses low-level gene agents to stimulate his own genetic potential, the blue star sea level is beginning to rise at an extremely inconspicuous rate. A large amount of water vapor escapes into the sky. Combined with it cold air, it forms a huge hail rain. Kyoto official shelter, satellite center. Several scientists looked at the remnants of the lunar parameters transmitted by the exploration satellite on the screen, and their faces were full of horror. It's as if you've seen something terrifying. Chapter 68 Gene Limit, the effect of low-level genetic medicine. I don't know how long it took. Li Hao suddenly woke up from his slumber. Call. 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 Standing up from the cold ground, Li Hao found that his every breath became long, as if he was absorbing a lot of oxygen and accelerating his blood circulation. The heart is also beating strongly, giving the blood more power. It seems that the low-grade gene potion has successfully stimulated my genetic potential and pushed the physical functions to the limit of my current genes. Feeling the information feedback from his body, Li Hao's eyes were bright. This moment. He felt completely refreshed, as if he had removed the shackles from his body. The whole body is filled with inexhaustible power. Energetic. The previous weakness, fatigue and old dark injuries have completely disappeared without a trace. The state has never been better. Black technology is really awesome! I just don't know how much I'm being strengthened now. Li Hao was happy in his heart, but also a little uncertain. After all, according to the description of the manufacturing technology of low-level gene agents, the enhancement effect obtained by people who use low-level gene agents is not consistent. 15 Although the effect of this agent is to strengthen the user's physical functions to the genetic limit, everyone's genetic limit cannot be the same, and there will always be some gaps between individuals. Among them, people with high gene strength will obviously have a much stronger physical function limit than people with low gene strength. Thinking of this, Li Hao can't wait to measure the limit of his current physical function. Get out of it. Li Hao went straight to the fitness room. This fitness room served as a place where he used to exercise. Although the area is not very large, the various exercise equipment is extremely complete. It is very suitable for Li Hao to understand and test his current physical fitness. After thinking about it, Li Hao decided to start with the simplest force measurement. The easiest way to test strength is to lift weights. Skip those tens of kilograms of barbells. Li Hao grabbed the barbell with the 150 kilograms logo on it and lifted it up. However, next second, the heavy pressure he imagined did not appear. It was as if what he was holding in his hand was not a 150 kilogram barbell, but a plastic stool. It is very relaxed. It seems that I still underestimated my physical strength. Even according to the calculations of Blue Star scientists, the limit of human strength is more than 300 kilograms, and it may actually be higher. Li Hao's eyes flashed, and he made some inferences in his heart. Putting down the big bar in his hand, Li Hao used the barbell blade to directly increase the weight of this big bar to 300 kilograms, double the previous one. Brought up again. Li Hao found there was still no pressure. It feels like the weight of one plastic stool has changed from the weight of one plastic stool to 3 plastic stools at most. 300 kilograms is far from his limit. Add the bar again. Add everything that can be added at once, and the weight of the barbell suddenly reaches 500 kilograms, that is, half a ton of weight. If it weren't for the very good quality of this barbell, I am afraid it would have broken long ago. This is a weight that normal humans cannot lift. Grasping the barbell stick, Li Hao lifts it up again. There is pressure, but it's not great. However, there are no more barbell pieces to increase the weight, and Li Hao can only choose to test in another way. In general, not counting the strength of the waist and legs, the strength of 2 hands is 2.5 times that of 1 hand. With a flash of eyes, Li Hao lifted his right hand off the barbell and lifted the 500 kilogram wazoo above his head with only the strength of his left hand. During this process, Li Hao's breathing was also a lot shorter. The pressure is clearly increased. Held on for 5 minutes. After feeling a slight fatigue, Li Hao put it down. According to the test just now, the force of my left arm should be around 600 kilograms. If you use your hands, according to 2.5 times, you can lift 1,200 kilograms, that is, 2,400 pounds. Li Hao estimated his strength, and a look of excitement appeared on his face. That's 1,200 kilograms, and the power is already more than 1 ton. Even if only calculating his one arm strength, it is at least 600 kilograms, and one punch is enough to easily beat a person into a meatloaf. Now it's time to test the speed. Li Hao stands on the treadmill and directly adjusts it to its fastest speed. However, the track rotation speed of the treadmill is much lower than that of Li Hao. As soon as it accelerated, the entire track rotated at high speed, and the motor of the treadmill burned out directly. No way, Li Hao had to use a stopwatch to roughly test his speed of 100 meters. Although it is not completely unfolded, my speed should be in 100 meters. Running back and forth several times in the fitness room, Li Hao looked at the numbers on the stopwatch and roughly estimated his speed. After that, Li Hao also tested his physical endurance, nervous reflexes, blow resistance and so on. Although the test method is very crude, Li Hao also knows his current physical fitness. Physical endurance is not good to say. After tossing for so long, I feel a little tired. And the nerve response is at least 3 times faster than that of normal humans, and the ability to resist 557 blows is at least 200 kilograms or more, and the limit has not been tested. The skin is so tough that it cannot be cut with a fruit knife, and the body's self-healing ability seems to have been greatly improved. Calculating the test data he got in the past few hours, Li Hao was more and more surprised and frightened. After drinking low-grade genetic potions, he was simply non-human in other aspects except for his appearance. Without the use of firearms, even the Special Forces King will probably be killed by his punch. It's too strong. Good guys, I'll just give up the guys. As this numbs the physical quality of the genetic limit. It's heavenly bombardment. According to the description in the Gene Medicine Manufacturing Manual, my genetic strength is definitely high, otherwise the limit of physical function would not be so strong. However, it cannot be inflated yet. Although I am now a horse with strong physical fitness, I am still a little weak in the face of firearms, and if I take a heavy headshot, I will still die. But even so, Li Hao is in a very good mood. Such a powerful body can definitely increase his survivability in the apocalypse by tens of %. Not to mention the super buff with vigorous energy. Thinking of this, Li Hao immediately walked in the direction of the bedroom. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelas. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Heavy Hailstorm, New Crisis March 3, 2021 At a hearty evening. It's 6 o'clock. Li Hao woke up from sleep on time. Although he only slept for 4 hours, he was full of energy and energy to the extreme. With such a strong body, it seems that it will be difficult to sleep in the future. Li Hao felt the surging energy in his body, and said a little helplessly, "This is the trouble of happiness. His extremely strong physical functions not only accelerated his self-healing ability, but also made his metabolism much faster. With just 4 hours of sleep, his body could easily return to its peak state. Looking at Jazushi, who was sleeping sweetly on the side, Li Hao climbed out of the bed lightly and put on clothes. After washing, Li Hao took the temperature tester and radiation tester and walked towards the outside of the shelter. The recent unusually strange weather has made him very uneasy. In order to be able to know the changes in the outside world for the first time, Li Hao was also a lot more diligent in temperature and radiation testing. Open the shelter doors. Come to the snow house on the surface. Li Hao looked outside and couldn't help but gasp. Hail. Countless hailstones the size of a millstone, like small meteorites, fell from thousands of meters in the air. Many houses outside have been smashed into ruins and razed to the ground. Looking around, within 1,000 meters of the surrounding area, it seems that only the complete building of the snow protection room is still standing alone. If Li Hao hadn't used a large amount of energy-absorbing alloy to reinforce the snow room, I am afraid that the snow room would have been smashed by these large hailstones. It's only been one night, hasn't it? How did this hail rain become so terrifying? After the shock, Li Hao also frowned. Too weird, too abnormal. What happened this night? It made such a huge change in this hail rain. The hailstone suddenly increased from the size of a fist to the size of a millstone. This smash down, I am afraid that the power is much more fierce than a rocket. One stroke is enough to smash a car into scrap metal. This kind of ghost weather, those difficult places built on the surface must be devastated. So many large hailstones are almost equivalent to the uninterrupted fire coverage of rockets. If this is the next day, who can stand it? But not everyone has black technology. Let's go to the shelter first. Such a strange and abnormal weather, the official should not be unaware. After testing the temperature and radiation, Li Hao hurried back to his bedroom, turned on his computer, and logged into the official forum to search for relevant information. Subsequently, he discovered that this huge hail rain was not unique to Shanghai City. Last night, this large hail rain covered nearly half of the Xia Kingdom. Caught off guard, many places were seriously affected. Many shelters built on the surface were destroyed by countless large hailstorms, which directly became history. The country's unforeseen hail rain only explained that it was caused by a large amount of water vapor suddenly entering the atmosphere, and the specific cause is still under investigation. Things were getting more and more wrong. Why is there suddenly a large amount of water vapor entering the atmosphere, making the hail and rain weather so terrifying, even covering half of the Xia Kingdom? Taking out the most recently recorded table of temperature changes and the table of radiation changes, Li Hao kept thinking about it. However, he is not a meteorologist after all, nor is he a big scientist. There is no well-established body of relevant knowledge to support it. Think about it. He also didn't have the slightest clue. However, intuitively, he believes that these changes in temperature and radiation are quite related to this sudden strong hail rain. Just as Li Hao pondered. Zhaozushi also woke up from a sleep in a daze, seeing Li Hao sitting in front of the computer frowning and thinking. She hugged the quilt, got into Li Hao's arms, her little head rubbed coquettishly in front of him, and said curiously, "What's wrong?" Nothing. I was just wondering why the weather had become so weird and abnormal recently, and I always felt like a thorn in my heart if I didn't figure it out. Putting aside the doubts in his heart for the time being, Li Hao rubbed Zhazushi's little head dotingly and explained. Then, check out a post on the heavy hail rain in the Doom forum to continue checking out. In the Doomsday forum, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, although the people involved in the discussion were uneven, there were many useless water stickers, but there were also a lot of dry goods, and there were even a few remarks about the cause of the big hail rain quite reasonable. Looking at these discussions, Li Hao combined with the information in his current hand, and gradually found his thoughts. Seeing that Li Hao didn't want to say more, Zhaozushi didn't ask much, so she quietly hid in Li Hao's arms, looking at Li Hao's serious thinking, and a trace of fascination flashed in her eyes. I don't know how long has passed. Zhaozushi has unconsciously closed her eyes and fallen asleep. At this time, Li Hao closed the Doomsday forum and looked at the table map of temperature and radiation changes in his hand, with a light expression on his face. This vapor most likely came from the sea. The seawater in the sea has been evaporated by the recently stronger sunlight and entered the atmosphere in large quantities, combined with the still cold temperature outside, which has led to this increasingly ferocious hail rain. This is evidenced by a table graph of temperature and radiation changes that I recorded. The recent uncharacteristically continuous rise in temperature and radiation should be caused by strong sunlight. And the reason why the sunlight is getting stronger is probably because the sun has entered an active period, or the atmosphere of blue star has thinned, which are the most likely. For so although this is only a rough guess, it is highly likely that Li Hao's previous table of temperature and radiation changes is corroborated. Of course, Li Hao can guess this information, and it is naturally impossible for countries with more professional talents to guess. It is just that the state may be investigating deeper factors. For example, the reason behind the active phase of the sun, or the thinning of the atmosphere of blue star. That's where the real crisis comes from. With the information in my hand, being able to speculate so much is already the limit, and the deeper reason is not enough information to support it, and it is also a waste of thought. Chapter 70 Solar Radiation, Blue Star Steamer. But from the current point of view, whether the temperature and radiation will gradually increase in the future, holding Shazushi, who was sleeping in her arms, Li Hao gently leaned back on the computer chair, thinking about possible catastrophic changes in the future. From the available information, two very likely guesses can be derived. One is that the sun enters an active period, the sunlight becomes stronger, and the other is that the atmosphere of the blue star begins to thin, allowing more sunlight and solar radiation to enter the blue star. But no matter which guess is correct, blue star will continue to heat up in the future, and the radiation will become stronger with it. If this direction continues, the blue star may become a large steamer in the future. The surface temperature and radiation will rise to an extremely frightening level, and the internal water resources will also quickly circulate and evaporate, forming a huge rainstorm covering the world, making the surface a country. As for the seemingly ferocious hail rain now, it is actually not itchy at all. After understanding the cause of its formation, it can be found that this bad weather is just a byproduct of the transition from extremely cold environment to high temperature environment. As the temperature rises, there is not enough cold environment, and naturally it will stop. Of course, it may be replaced by a heavy rainstorm. However, unless the Sunday enters a superactive period once in millions of years, or unless the orbit of 760 suddenly changes dramatically and rapidly approaches the Sun, the situation with blue star should not be so serious. Of course, no matter how small the possibility is, there is also this possibility, and it has to be prevented. If the situation was really serious to this extent, the protective system of his current shelter would not be able to bear it at all. The terrifying high temperature alone is enough to heat the temperature inside the shelter to hundreds of degrees, and normal people obviously cannot survive in this environment. Normal people living in an environment of more than 30 degrees feel hot, and hundreds of degrees can completely steam people. It seems that the protective wall of the shelter is going to be upgraded again. The materials that just upgrade the walls of the shelter are also readily available. Calculating the possible future crises, Li Hao also has a mental idea of what he should do at this stage. Gently pick up the sleeping beauty in your arms and put it on the big bed next to it. After covering the quilt, Li Hao walked out of the bedroom and towards the industrial workshop. Come to the automated metal furnace. Li Hao finds energy-absorbing alloys in a range of metal formulations on its displays. Since it is necessary to upgrade the walls of the shelter, it is necessary to prevent the high-temperature radiation crisis caused by the sun. Then it is natural to choose the best alloy. Energy-absorbing alloys are obviously the best choice at the moment. Not only is the basic performance dozens of times stronger than the memory alloy steel and low-temperature defense alloy that now make up the shelter wall, but it also has the characteristics of energy absorption. Whether it is high-temperature radiation or low-temperature cold, as long as it does not exceed its limit, it can be completely absorbed. According to the estimation of the energy-absorbing metal protective wall covering the entire shelter, once completely completed, I am afraid that only the energy released by the outbreak of strategic missiles can break through its absorption limit. This level of energy defense metal wall, as long as the high-temperature radiation is not high to the point of perversion, should be enough to ensure that the shelter is not affected by the external environment. Without hesitation, Li Hao clicked directly on the manufacturing options of energy-absorbing alloys. Next second, I saw the automatic metal furnace start, and a blue high-temperature flame came out of the inside, fusing the rigorous process with various metals. About 10 minutes later, pieces of extremely dark energy-absorbing alloy wall panels were continuously produced from the furnace production line. Call on a few clone warriors to handle and store these newly baked energy-absorbing alloy plates. Li Hao walked to the mechanical warehouse, started the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus on stand B, and began the wall replacement and upgrade work of the shelter. With the help of the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus, Li Hao's work of building and upgrading the walls of the shelter is naturally much easier than before. BFDD, it is also dozens of times faster in speed. If it weren't for the speed at which automated metal furnaces could not keep up with the production of energy-absorbing alloys, which were high-grade alloys, I am afraid that Li Hao would have been able to complete 1/5 of the wall replacement and upgrade of the shelter on the first day. Even so, Li Hao completed the replacement and upgrading of 1/10 of the shelter's walls. And it took less than 2 hours. There's nothing to do. Li Hao can only be a salted fish, watching movies with Shazushi and the three daughters, and fighting landlords 2-0-2-1-3-4. Due to the overnight work of the automated metal furnace, a lot of energy-absorbing alloy wall panels have been accumulated. Li Hao's work is progressing faster today than yesterday. With more energy-absorbing alloy wall panels, today all 1/5 of the walls of the refuge have been replaced and upgraded. Coupled with yesterday's progress, only 7/10 of the wall has not yet been replaced with energy-absorbing alloy plates. It is expected to take another 3 or 4 days to complete 2-0-2-1-3-5. The outside hail rain is getting more and more intense, but the temperature and radiation index have been steadily rising. Obviously, Li Hao's previous guess was quite accurate. On this day, Li Hao completed another 1/5 of the shelter wall replacement upgrade. March 6, 2021. Li Hao continues the unfinished work on the replacement and upgrading of the shelter walls. March 7, 2021. Li Hao logged into the official forum and found that the official posted a disaster prevention warning banner. Red alert. The atmosphere of the blue star is gradually thinning, and it is expected that the solar radiation entering the interior of the blue star will gradually increase. Please prepare for the prevention of high temperature and radiation in advance, and try to protect yourself. In addition, several guidebooks on how to prevent heat and radiation have also been officially placed at the top. After getting this early warning news, others naturally exploded. The number of replies at the bottom of those guidebook posts increased rapidly. Obviously, this sudden disaster message shocked and panicked everyone. However, Li Hao was not surprised, but had a clear expression on his face. This official announcement completely confirms my previous speculation. Although it is not known whether the growth trend of solar radiation will skyrocket in the coming period, it is best to replace and upgrade the shelter wall faster. One day sooner. Chapter 71 Metal Manufacturing Furnaces, Construction of Underground Tunnels. For these disasters, Li Hao has always raised his vigilance to the highest. This is the basic principle of surviving in the apocalypse. After all, this kind of catastrophe with global repercussions is no joke. If you are not careful, once something unexpected happens, it will really die, and it's ugly to die. However, from the current point of view, it is still somewhat difficult to quickly complete the replacement and upgrade of the shelter wall in a short period of time. Because some of the rare metals needed for the synthesis of energy-absorbing alloys in the shelter are about to be consumed, gone. Without raw materials, the speed of automated metal furnace production of energy-absorbing alloy wall panels can obviously only stagnate, and it is naturally impossible to speed up the replacement and upgrading of shelter walls. Unless Li Hao can solve this problem in a short period of time. Otherwise, the remaining 3/10 of the shelter walls will be upgraded and replaced, and they will not be completed in a short time. At present, there are only 2 ways to solve this problem. One is to go out to find such rare metals, or trade soil with other shelter people, or see if there's relevant technology in the system mall that can solve it. However, there is a millstone-sized hail falling on the surface outside, and it is impossible to go out, so it is obviously not feasible to go out and find metal or trade with other people. Then, we can only see if there's any black technology in the system mall to solve this problem. Thinking like this, Li Hao immediately opened the Doomsday Technology Mall to find black technology that could solve the shortage of rare metal resources. After some searching, Li Hao also found what he needed. Small automated metal fabrication furnace manufacturing range. Iron, copper, zinc, titanium, niobium, tantalum. Output: 0.5 tons a day, 2.5 tons a day, depending on the abundance of mineral atoms in the soil. Introduction. This metal manufacturing furnace is an extremely efficient metal atom stripping technology, which can strip out specific mineral atoms from the soil to produce a variety of metals. This small, automated metal manufacturing furnace that can produce at least 0.5 tons of metal a day should be enough. Large metal-making furnaces are more productive, but they are too expensive for me to afford. Without hesitation, Li Hao directly bought this small automated metal manufacturing furnace. Points, 12,000 points. In an instant, Li Hao is consumed clean these days together with the points accumulated before. Only 100 digits remain. Open the system inventory. Take the small automated metal fabrication furnace out of it and place it next to the automated metal furnace. Then, connect the power supply and start it. Next, just pour the soil into this small automated metal manufacturing furnace, and the energy will continue to produce the rare metals I need. Confirming that the small automated metal fabrication furnace was starting up normally, Li Hao slightly. As for where the soil comes from, dig underground. Before leaving, in order to cope with the underground entrance and exit by the mob, it was necessary to dig in the soil near the sewer pipe. In this case, he personally went into battle with a small automated machine and a clone warrior. No way. After buying a small-scale automated metal-making furnace, he is now also poor. I can't afford to buy the automatic digging robot and the Doomsday Tech Mall. Of course, with a small automatic excavator, the efficiency is not necessarily inferior to the automatic excavation robot. It is just that the dirt needs to be transported back to the shelter by itself. Do what you want. However, Li Hao did not immediately dig the soil, but used a small automatic excavator and a fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building to dig the underground entrance and exit to the sewer before the expansion of the octopus. He intends to widen it to more than 3 meters to accommodate the passage of transport vehicles. After all, it still makes sense to build roads before you want to get rich. This entrance and exit were previously only used as a backup passageway. Therefore, it is not large. At most it can only support 2 people in parallel. Unable to pass the vehicle. If you do not expand and use human power to transport soil, the efficiency will definitely be very slow. It would be different if it were expanded into a small tunnel that could accommodate the movement of vehicles. The use of delivery vehicles to transport soil is certainly dozens of times faster and much easier than manpower. With the help of 2 Black technologies, it is still easy to build a small underground tunnel of more than 500 meters expansion, reinforcement, drying. In less than an hour, the small underground tunnel was completed. After building the underground tunnel, Li Hao also specially built a route from the underground tunnel to the underground garage to facilitate the transportation of vehicles into the underground tunnel. The nuclear battery heavy-duty truck is too large to drive in a small underground tunnel, and the radiation-proof snow truck is too small to be used as a transport vehicle. It seems that only this pickup truck captured from the mob can be used. This small truck is not large or small, and its load is also 8 tons, which is just suitable for transporting soil. Choose a transport vehicle. Li Hao is also ready to start work. Driving the transport vehicle to the sewers, Li Hao took the small automation technology from the cargo box. Launch it. Airplanes. 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 Small automated excavators quickly break through the underground soil layer and continuously excavate the soil. Seeing this, Li Hao immediately asked the clone warrior to load the dug-up dirt with an iron bucket and pour it into the large iron bucket in the cargo box of the small truck. Confirm that everything went well. An hour later, Li Hao returned to the shelter with a pickup truck full of loads. Pour this back dirt into a metal-making furnace. Li Hao selects the metal he needs on the metal manufacturing furnace display and clicks Start Manufacturing. Ziz work indicator lights up on metal fabricated furnace equipment. Followed by Li Hao clearly saw that the soil inside the device was decreasing and disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if there was an abyss mouth below, devouring these soils. About 10 minutes later, the first metal ingots appeared at the exit. It was germanium, a rare metal he had previously chosen to manufacture. It didn't take long for a steady stream of metal ingots to come out of the metal-making furnace. Sufficient raw materials. The automated metal furnace, which had been stagnant, naturally started to start. A large number of energy-absorbing alloys are manufactured. The replacement and upgrading of the shelter wall is also back to the original track. Chapter 72 The Global Hypoxia Crisis, the Harvest of Genetically Modified Fast-Cooking Rice. 202-138 Li Hao continued to dig the earth to enrich the shelter's metal reserves. March 9, 2021 To solve the problem of raw materials, the automated metal furnace is running at full force. After 2 days of production, the reserve of energy-absorbing alloy plates in the shelter has also become sufficient. With sufficient energy-absorbing alloy wall panels, Li Hao used a fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus, worked overtime, and finally completed the wall replacement and upgrading of the entire shelter. It's finally done. Looking at the energy-absorbing alloy protective wall in front of him, Li Hao was also relieved in his heart. With this upgraded shelter wall, even if the surface temperature and radiation are high, as long as it does not exceed the limit of its energy absorption, the inside of the underground shelter will not be affected in any way. Place the cryogenic defense alloy and memory alloy steel that replaced 100 into the metal bin cutlery. Li Hao, who has done a good job in disaster prevention, is also completely able. Holding Shazushi to play games, occasionally chatting with sand sculpture netizens. The little life is still quite comfortable too. 201 3, 1, 0. The outside temperature continues to warm up and has returned to minus 53 degrees. But the heavy hail rain is also becoming more and more ferocious. Although the individual size has not changed much, the density is much higher than before. Moreover, according to the information on the internet, the scope of the great hail rain has also been greatly expanded, covering more than half of the land of the Xia Kingdom. However, Li Hao did not pay much attention to this, and paid more attention to some information in the Doomsday Forum that estimated the rate of atmospheric thinning. After all, the hailstorm posed no threat to him, and was itself just a by-product of the process of climate change. The sharp rise in solar radiation received by blue stars due to the thinning of the atmosphere is the real big crisis. If you are not careful, the entire blue star will turn into a huge high-temperature steamer, steaming every life inside. The degree of danger between the two is not comparable at all. 2, 0, 2, 1, 3, 1, 1, 8. The outside temperature warmed up again, rising directly to minus 46 degrees. March 12, 2021. The last batch of wheat and rice harvested abundantly. The genetically modified quick-ripening rice that was subsequently sown on a large area has now fully matured after a growth cycle of 1.5 months. Vegetable plantations are planted outdoors plus agricultural plantations, and there are probably more than 7,000 square meters of land sown with genetically modified quick-ripening rice. Harvest. The shelter directly increased its food reserves by nearly 10 tons. If it weren't for the construction of a large granary of more than 1,000 square meters before, even if the original food storage room burst, it would not be able to hold so much rice. March 13, 2021. March 17, 2021. As the temperature rises day by day, the heavy hail rain that has been fierce for more than half a month is finally no longer so ferocious. It went from the size of a millstone to the size of a fist. It seems that there's a trend of disappearing completely. Early morning. Li Hao had a rare nap today and didn't wake up until O''clock. Get up and move your muscles. For some reason, he suddenly felt a little stuffy in his chest, as if his breathing was a little unsmooth. This situation instantly alerted Li Hao. With my current physical functions enhanced by low-grade genetic agents, it is difficult to get sick, and there should be no problems in my body. Then, obviously only external factors are affected. Li Hao's eyes flashed. Taking a few deep breaths, Li Hao noticed that his symptoms of stuffiness seemed to suddenly improve. It won't be stuffy due to insufficient oxygen supply, right? Feeling this, Li Hao suddenly had a guess in his heart. Although his physical functions are extremely strong now, he also needs to consume more oxygen. Spring river water heating. Profit. If the oxygen content in the air becomes less than a certain level, you will be more likely to detect it than ordinary people. Oxygen levels in the air of shelters dropping. Could it be that there's a problem with the ventilation system? ? No, go check it out as soon as possible. Thinking of this possibility, Li Hao's eyes froze, quickly put on his clothes, and walked out of the bedroom. Quickly check all the ventilation ducts, air filters, etc. In the shelter, Li Hao, however, found nothing. The ventilation system was working properly and there were no problems at all. What's going on? Seeing this, Li Hao was also a little puzzled, and his brows were furrowed together. Wait, this may not just be a drop in oxygen in the air of the shelter. Suddenly, as if thinking of some possibility, Li Hao's face changed, and he walked quickly back to the bedroom. Turn on the computer. Li Hao opened the Doomsday Forum for the first time. The question of the drop in oxygen levels in the air has been put at the top, causing concern for many. Sure enough, it is not just his shelter, but the oxygen levels of the entire blue star have dropped. This is a global hypoxia. Looking through this post, Li Hao also has a general understanding of the specific cause of this incident. In fact, as early as after the end of the world, the seed of global hypoxia has been planted. The giant meteorite fall changed the climate of the entire blue star dramatically. The ice age came, and the extreme cold caused all plants to freeze to death. After all, no matter how frost-resistant plants are, it is impossible to survive in ultra-low temperatures of minus tens of degrees. The extinction of surface plants has prevented carbon dioxide from the blue star's air being converted into oxygen. In this case, the organism is still constantly breathing, allowing oxygen to be converted into carbon dioxide, and the oxygen content in the air naturally begins to decline. 5.6 After more than half a year of consumption, blue star's oxygen reserves are about to be exhausted. Now the oxygen content in the air has dropped to a rather dangerous point. At most a week, the oxygen content of the air drops to the point where ordinary humans feel stuffy. In another month, if you don't think about it, if you don't want to do it, Humans breathing air, I am afraid that there will be a risk of suffocation and carbon dioxide poisoning. It is for this reason that the vast majority of people on the Doomsday Forum are discussing the method of communicating oxygen production. Even the official was involved. The relatively simple and easy oxygen production methods such as green algae oxygen production method and bacterial oxygen production methods are all announced at the top, so that more people can see it. The world is about to fall into a hypoxia crisis, and it seems that I will prepare early. But the oxygen production efficiency of these simple methods on the internet is too low. Chapter 73 Transformation Technology of Fast-Growing Oxygen Algae. I need a more efficient way to produce oxygen. Li Hao's eyes flashed. The amount of oxygen that is enough to support the breathing of more than 20 people in the entire vault, including the clone warriors, is not a small number. Relying on those green algae oxygen production methods and bacterial oxygen production methods on the internet alone is obviously a drop in the bucket. After all, it is difficult for him to cultivate a large number of green algae or specific strains needed for oxygen production on a large scale in a short period of time. Of course, the two plantations in the shelter combined can produce oxygen with more than 10,000 square meters of crops per day. However, the oxygen production efficiency of crops is much lower than that of green algae oxygen production method and bacterial oxygen production method. More than 10,000 square meters of crops produced oxygen is simply not enough for more than 20 people in the entire shelter. It seems that I can only go to the Doomsday Technology Mall to find out if there's any related technology. Thinking of this, Li Hao suddenly had a decision in his heart. Open the Doomsday Tech store. Li Hao began screening technologies that could produce oxygen in large quantities. After some screening, Li Hao was finally in the biotechnology area. Found the technology you need. Fast-growing oxygen algae transformation technology. Growth rate 15. Every 10 square meters/day oxygen production, 1 day. 1,000 liters per square introduction. This technology modifies a special algae through biological genetic engineering, so that its growth rate and oxygen production capacity have been greatly improved. Note: after transformation, the algae species have some biological characteristics, and one algae species can only grow up to 100 square meters. This technology should be the best cost performance. The price is not expensive, and the oxygen production efficiency is also very high. According to the above introduction, an algae species of oxygen algae can grow to a complete body after 10 days of growth, that is, covering 100 square meters. 100 square meters of oxygen algae can produce 1,000 liters of oxygen per square meter, 1 day, and 100 square meters, 1 day, is 100,000 liters. An adult needs about 500 liters of oxygen a day. 100,000 liters is enough for 200 adults to breathe in a day. There are now just over 20 people in the shelter. Totally more than enough. Didn't he say it? Li Hao bought the technology directly. Then, walked towards the biological laboratory. Step into a biology lab. Come to the biogene editing table. Li Hao takes the fast-growing oxygen algae modification technology out of the system inventory. Next second, a piece of information printed with various genetic maps and a glass bottle containing unknown purple algae suddenly appeared in Li Hao's hand. The car entered the information into the bioengineering drawing library of the biogene editing table. Then, the unknown purple algae inside the glass bottle were poured into the modified vessel on the right. Click parse. A minute later, there was an algae-like selection marker on the display screen of the biogene editing table. That is the retrofit option for fast-growing oxygen algae. Click transform. A subtle electric current suddenly flashed in the transformation vessel on the right. It took about 5 minutes. A glass tube containing a dark blue seed-like item is exported from the product of the biogene editing table. Pick it up. After Li Hao took a closer look, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. After the transformation, this algae has completely changed. Not only did the color change from purple to dark blue, but its structure also changed from loose to compact, seed-like structure. This direct and rapid biomodification technology is really magical. After sighing, Li Hao walked out of the biological laboratory with this tube of oxygen algae species. He now wants to find a place to transform a large pool for the growth of this tube of oxygen algae species. Walked around the shelter. Soon, Li Hao chose the location to build the oxygen chamber. It's right in the center of the ventilation duct network. The benefits of choosing here are many. The main advantage is that the oxygen produced by the oxygen algae in the oxygen room can be pumped into the ventilation duct through some technical modifications, so that these oxygen transport can be circulated to every corner of the shelter through the ventilation duct network to ensure the normal supply of oxygen in the entire shelter. And there was a fairly empty room just below the center of the ventilation duct network, which he had intended to reserve for the expansion of the power room. Not needed now. Just transformed into an oxygen chamber. After determining the construction location ventilation of the oxygen production room, Li Hao went to the mechanical warehouse, started the fully automatic multifunctional mechanical building octopus, and began the renovation project of the room. Agricultural light installation, digging dirt, strengthening the pond. Under a series of operations, a pool of more than 100 square meters quickly took shape. Connect the pool to the buried water pipe. Soon this large pond of more than 100 square meters is filled with water. Do it all. Only then did Li Hao open the glass tube in his hand and pour the oxygen algae species inside into the pool. Just come into contact with water. Oxygen algae species begin to grow at a rate visible to the naked eye. According to the instructions on those materials, only microorganisms are needed in the growth process of oxygen algae species, which is very easy to feed. To get the living environment of oxygen algae species, Li Hao began the renovation of the ventilation duct. Use the fully automatic 887 multifunctional mechanical building octopus to make an opening above the oxygen chamber. Two ventilation ducts are then installed and connected to the ventilation duct network. Finally, a suction machine and oxygen detection device are installed on this ventilation duct belonging to the oxygen production room. The renovation is complete. As soon as the oxygen algae start producing oxygen in large quantities, the suction machine activates and transports the oxygen to every corner of the shelter through a network of ventilation ducts. It's all done. After a day of growth, the oxygen algae can cover an area of 10 square meters, and the oxygen produced will be enough for 20 people. Over time, oxygen algae will also provide more and more oxygen until it grows to the growth limit. 27. Looking at the freshly baked oxygen room, Li Hao nodded in satisfaction. With it, the oxygen crisis in the shelter can be regarded as completely lifted. That's right. When the oxygen algae are completely grown, the ventilation duct leading to the outside world needs to be closed, otherwise oxygen will escape to the outside world along the ventilation duct. Run to the control console and set the ventilation duct to the outside to automatically close after 5 days. After doing all this, Li Hao walked leisurely to the living room. It is almost 11:00 o'clock. It is almost time for lunch. Chapter 74. The Ice Age ends and a trading market prospers. Come to the living room. Do you eat hot pot today? Looking at the mandarin duck pot with chili oil and chicken broth burning on the table, Li Hao felt that the spit in his mouth began to secrete rapidly. I haven't eaten hot pot for a long time. It is really nostalgic to think of the joy of eating hot pot and drinking beer in peacetime. There are still a lot of fresh beef, lamb and vegetables in the refrigerator, but if you don't eat them quickly, they will become not fresh, so I simply make a fire delicious and convenient. Zhazhua, who was preparing hot pot ingredients in the kitchen, opened her mouth to explain. A few minutes later, Zhazhua got all the ingredients and brought them up. Fresh beef, fresh lamb, spinach, crab rolls, lettuce, duck tongue, all kinds of vegetables and meats, everything. This meal is simply extravagant to the extreme in the current doomsday environment. When the other survivors saw it, their eyes turned red with envy. Li Hao sat down to eat with Zhazuki's 3 daughters. Shhhh. It's a pity that these beef and mutton in the refrigerator are gone. Pick up a piece of lamb, put it in the bottom of the chili oil pot and blanch it for tens of seconds, and then eat it in your mouth. Enjoying the food itself can't help but sigh. At present, there is no shortage of food in the shelter, and vegetables and chicken and duck meat are self-sufficient. But only cattle and sheep are not available in the shelter. The cost of raising cattle and sheep is too large, and if there's no pasture, they can only be given food. An adult cow needs at least 30 pounds of grain a day, dozens of times that of an adult. Such a large amount of rice, large-scale breeding, only can withstand a. This year, people are almost unable to eat, and they still raise these big rice buckets. Over time, I'm afraid that the official shelter will not be able to hold up. Therefore, even if the shelter has sufficient food reserves, Li Hao currently has no intention of raising cattle and sheep on a large scale. Without breeding cattle and sheep, the beef and mutton stored in the cold room are eaten, and naturally cannot be replenished. You're too greedy. Compared to those who eat earthworms, I am already satisfied with vertical bar to be able to eat so well. In the last days, Zhazhua picked up a piece of duck tongue, scalded it in the bottom of the chicken broth, dipped it in a little sauce, and ate it in his mouth, and a look of satisfaction suddenly appeared on his delicate face. Yoon. Eating the hot pot, Zhazushi and Zhazuki also nodded in agreement. When they are bored, they often use the computer to surf the internet, and naturally know what is going on in other shelters. Many shelters are short of food and light by eating dried earthworms that smell dirty. When they think about that kind of life, they feel that their current life is extremely good. Cherish and be more satisfied with your current life. Time to sign casually. Li Hao looked at the 3 daughters with a satisfied look of amusement, and said quite helplessly. Eating well, drinking well, and accompanied by 3 beautiful women, he is also quite satisfied with his current life. Of course, it would be better if you could still eat beef and mutton casually. Thinking of this, Li Hao secretly made up his mind that he would definitely get a few cows and sheep cubs to raise in the future. Large-scale farming can't afford to raise it, can't you farm on a small scale? As long as there are no more than 20, with the current grain production of the shelter, he can still afford it. This hearty hot pot, everyone is very satisfied. All the ingredients on the table were swept away. Li Hao even opened a box of pre-apocalyptic beer to fuel up. Finish eating. Zhaozuhui and Zhaozuqi got up to clean up the dishes and chopsticks on the table. Li Hao was lying on the sofa with Zhaozushi in her arms, watching the movie video, enjoying the comfortable and tired feeling after drinking and eating. Tick. 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 Time passes minute by minute. Halfway through the movie, Li Hao has fallen asleep unconsciously. And Zhaozushi was also lying in Li Hao's arms, quietly closing her eyes. The moment seems to be eternal. Zhaozuhua, who had washed the dishes and chopsticks, and Zhaozuqi came out of the kitchen. Seeing this beautiful picture, Zhaozuhua and Zhaozuqi only felt that they were invisibly sprinkled with the weight of dog food, and their hearts were a little sour for some reason. Suppressing the inexplicable little sourness and envy in their hearts, Zhaozuqi and Zhaozuhua took out from the room and covered the two. Then, as if the two of them were sleepy, Zhaozuqi and Zhaozuhua also took a blanket each, lazily leaned on the sofa next to Zhaozushi and Li Hao and fell asleep. In the living room, movie videos were played on the LCD screen, and 4 people took a quiet nap. The whole picture gives people a feeling of good time, leaves early and lazy. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, a week passed. As the temperature radiation rose, the hail rain that lasted for a long time finally stopped. At present, the outside temperature has returned to minus 16 degrees. This temperature has returned to a range that humans can easily accept. As long as the insulation measures are done, it is still no problem to go out. However, the ice crisis is in the past. But this week, the global hypoxia crisis is getting more and more serious. On the internet, the popularity of this topic has not only not dissipated with the passage of time, but has become more popular. Because many people have begun to gradually feel stuffy and can't breathe. It is precisely because of this that more and more people are buying green algae and oxygen bacteria on the internet. The trading market has also become extremely lively during this time. Tens of thousands of posts, large and small, for oxygen-producing plants and bacteria, grain and salt. This is also an official upgrade to the forum, showing only the results of traders in the same province. Taking advantage of the fact that the external climate is still normal, everyone began to exchange a lot of information and exchange the urgently needed materials, in order to better survive the subsequent crisis. And take advantage of this. Great Eastwind, Li Hao naturally did not sit idle, and began to trade with other shelters with salt. Zhao's. Although for Li Hao, salt is no different from mud. With the salt synthesis machine, salt is piled up in the shelter's barn curry, and it is impossible to eat for hundreds of years. But for other shelters that don't have the means to make salt on a large scale, salt is an extremely precious thing. People cannot eat meat, but they cannot eat salt. It can be said that salt has almost replaced paper money in the old era and become a hard currency in the online exchange market. Therefore, Li Hao traded salt with other shelters, which can be described as invincible. With the mountains of salt piled up in these warehouses, Li Hao exchanged for a lot of good things. More than a dozen boxes of raw pulp motai, several boxes of superb laphite, and hundreds of cases of top pre-apocalyptic wine. In addition to these alcoholic products that increase the quality of life, in order to be able to lead a steady stream of beef and mutton in the future, Li Hao also traded 6 cattle cubs and 8 lambs from the official shelter in Shanghai City, and prepared to raise them on a small scale in the shelter and be self-sufficient. Chapter 75, Precursor of the Ocean Era. The Grand Sea Arc Plan 2021-326. The outside temperature has risen back to minus 9 degrees. The cold air is gradually receding. However, the weather is also becoming more and more volatile and capricious. From time to time, torrential rain can fall without warning. Inside the shelter. A pickup truck slowly drove into the underground garage. Good harvest today. Getting out of the car, Li Hao looked at the goods in the truck's cargo box and couldn't help but smile. This time, he used edible salt to get 10 cartons of canned fruit, 5 boxes of top-quality chocolate, and hundreds of freshwater fish fry. It was a bumper harvest. Canned fruit with top-quality chocolate goes without saying. And the apocalypse is a luxury within a luxury. After all, fruit trees and cocoa trees have a long growth cycle, often taking years to blossom and bear fruit. In the apocalypse, it is estimated that only a very small number of people will grow these things. It is estimated that there will be no fruit and cocoa beans for a long time to come. Hundreds of freshwater fry are also precious. Just get a fish pond and let these freshwater fish thrive. The shelter can provide a stable food source for more than 340 people, making the shelter more diverse in food. What is more, the nutrition of fish is also very high, and the taste is also very delicious. Thinking of the wonderful taste of grilled fish, Li Hao couldn't help but swallow a little. The coolest thing is that these are all exchanged for salt. For Li Hao, table salt is no different from dirt. Rounded, these things are equivalent to picking up for nothing. Have a few clone warriors carry these canned fruits and top chocolates to the pantry. Li Hao took the hundreds of freshwater fry and walked towards the farm. At present, the farm's 10 breeding areas are home to chickens, ducks, cattle and sheep, and 6 areas are empty. These freshwater fry are placed in one of the farming areas. Enter the farm. Come to an empty breeding area. Li Hao started the fully automatic multi-purpose mechanical building Octopus, transforming the area into a fish pond of more than 100 square meters. Subsequently, live water is introduced, BFDB, water temperature is set, and hundreds of freshwater fry are put into it. After making sure that the fry did not have any unwell and were very active, Li Hao sprinkled a handful of grain into it as food for these fry according to the farming method taught by the seller. After doing all this, Li Hao turned around and left the farm. Returned to the shelter bedroom. Li Hao turned on his computer, ate canned fruit while logging into the official forum to check the latest information. Although the recent acceleration of temperature recovery has brought the ice age to an end, everything seems to be going in a good direction, but he still maintains a great sense of vigilance. Because he knew very well that this was not the end of disaster, but the beginning of another catastrophe. The era of low temperature is over, and the era of high temperature is coming. The rate of thinning of the atmosphere is a key factor in determining when the era of high temperatures will come and how much the temperature of the blue star will increase. Not only that, but Li Hao also has another, bigger worry and doubt in his mind. Why exactly does the blue star atmosphere thin? It can't be for nothing. You know, the atmosphere of blue star was very stable before. Even if a giant meteorite impact will have a certain impact on the atmosphere of blue star, it will never make the atmosphere of blue star thin and escape. Now that the blue star's atmosphere to dissipate and continues thin, there are definitely other unknown decisive factors in it. That unknown determinant may be the real source of the crisis. After all, from the current point of view, such major events as the blue star heating up and the global entry into the high temperature era are all formed because of this unknown decisive factor. Who can guarantee that this unknown decisive factor affects only these? What are the unknown factors that cause the thinning of the blue star's atmosphere? Looking at recent news reports, Li Hao has not found anything, and it seems that the country has not found the cause about the atmosphere of blue star. Just as Li Hao was disappointed and ready to close the official forum, a bright red super banner appeared abruptly on the official forum. Super disaster warning. Li Hao was also shocked in his heart, and quickly clicked in to check it. Red alert. Red warning. After repeated research and investigation by scientists at the Kyoto official vault, comparing the lunar parameters transmitted by the exploration satellite, it was found that a small deflection occurred when it was suspected to be hit by a large giant meteorite fragment before using the ball. After several evolutions, the deflection of the moon is gradually increasing, and the gravitational force with the moon is gradually unbalanced, and the gravitational field begins to be disordered, and it is expected that the sea level of the ocean will gradually rise in the future until it engulfs all the continents of blue star. The state has launched an emergency plan, using 10 new large-scale plateau shelters before, using the perfect industrial facilities of large plateau shelters, opening the Sea Arc plan, which will build tens of thousands of maritime steel giant ships, and several 50 square kilometers of mobile steel islands, which are expected to accommodate 200 to 600 million people. Please do not give up hope. Human civilization will always exist. Human brilliance will always be there. Note: 1 square kilometer equals 1 million square meters, moon deflection. Earth-Moon gravity imbalance, and the Arc at Sea program. After reading this information, Li Hao was also a little stunned. Unknown factors that cause the thinning of the blue star's atmosphere to escape seem to have been found. Moon deflection. The deflection of the moon causes the gravitational imbalance of the Earth and the moon, causing the gravitational disorder of the blue star, which can no longer perfectly bind the atmosphere of the atmosphere, resulting in the thinning of the atmosphere. This is the real reason for the recent sharp rise in blue star temperatures. It doesn't seem to matter anymore, though. The most important thing now is that due to the gradual deflection of the moon, it seems that the tidal gravity has also begun to increase. According to the official information, the sea level of blue star is likely to rise to the point where it can engulf all of blue star's continents in the future. Otherwise, the official could not have opened the so-called Sea Arc plan so solemnly, which means that the ocean age has come in, and it is already approaching. Thinking of this, Li Hao's face was also a little gloomy. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.